Okay. We're trying this once more. If it doesn't work, I don't know what to do. I have tried. Oh my gosh, have I tried. YouTube just doesn't seem to want to work for me. Come on, man. Alright, well, unfortunately, I don't know how to get this to work. I hope, I guess, that it's working. But, other than that, I'm really not sure what to do. I can only try to make it, accurate. Alright, I've saved the info. I don't know what else to do. I've saved the info. Thanks for being patient, I appreciate it. We're going to go till 2 today, as opposed to going till 1, just to make up for some of the technical difficulties, the time that's wasted. Oh, sorry, the screen wasn't on, or at least the thing wasn't on, the thing itself. But it's on now. Alright. Hello, hi again. I'm sorry that, you know, that the vertical video just doesn't seem to want to do anything. You know, I hope that I'm appearing in the shorts feed, and if you happen to be able to tell whether or not I'm appearing in the shorts feed, then please let me know. I would much appreciate it. I am, yeah, I'm trying to increase my community and increase the viewers. So it's, I guess, you know, it's really important. It doesn't seem important to YouTube, but it's really important to me that I'm able to get eyes on the screen here, and that's you know what I'm hoping for. So if you join from the shorts feed, please let me know, and that'll give me a huge, you know, that'll give me some peace of mind, so that I know that the broadcast isn't getting lost in the sauce. Thank you. What we're gonna do, in addition to reacting to videos, is we're gonna take a look at these topics here. We're gonna say topics, and we'll say trans people, or trans gay people exist. What's the other one? The Bible endorses slavery, right? And what else? God's not a good guy. And then proof of God? There we go. All right. So that will be the thing, the topics that we have available. And they will be right here for your easy viewing pleasure. I think right in the center of the screen works. Let's see, put that up here and put that shabam right there. So that way you guys can feel free to discuss with me and amongst yourselves. And, yeah, and there you go. So if you've got something to say about any of those topics, feel free. In the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to go look at some questions that people have. We're going to take a look at questions people have for atheists, I guess, and then some proof that people say that they have for God's existence. All right. So let's hope. Let's hope that's an actual one. What I'm trying to find is people that aren't necessarily like people that aren't reacting to things. That's what I'm hoping. I don't want people to react to things. I would like to react to those things, you know? Like this, I think TMM is a channel that answers those things. Right? So same with Logic. Same with Aaron Ra. You know what I mean? Like, I want to try and find the people who are answering the questions, not the people who are... Or people who are asking the questions, not the people who are answering the questions, if that makes any sense. Overwhelmingly intellectual answers to an atheist. Okay. Atheists can't answer these 5 questions? Sure. Making an doubt his faith. No, Ray Comfort, come on, man. If you watch Ray Comfort and you agree that he's a good source, then that's... I don't know if I believe any of your credibility. Answering the toughest atheist questions, okay? Atheism put to the test in 23 questions. Are you asking... Let's see if he's asking of atheists. No more results. Okay, then proof of God. Alright. Alright, we're going to take a look, and we're going to see if we can find some proof of God. Alright. Can God be scientifically proven? I don't want to watch 40 minutes of that. Amazing scientific evidence of God. Okay. I'm into it. Top scientist explains what convinced him of Jesus. Every argument about God's existence. Are they arguing for it? I don't know. How to prove God's existence without the Bible. There you go, that's a good one. Oh, hey, look, there's me. Hello. But see, that tells me I'm not in the shorts feed because did I click videos? No, it was all. Okay. Okay. If you're just joining, let me know if you found me in the shorts feed. I'm really trying to figure out if I actually got the video into the shorts feed. So just let me know. I'd love to know if you found me in the shorts feed. That would be great. Jay Dyer. Any idea which video I should look at? He has a tag argument, and yes. Yes, that you found me in the shorts feed? Because that would be great. Not that I mean, Jesus is King. I know you've been here a few times, but, you know, just letting me know. Which video is it? Just let me know when you. Is it this one? I sorted by popularity. I don't know if I should sort by latest. Booger Whistle Guru. Booger Whistle? Well, I mean, I'm assuming that he's racist as well.
Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black king, black bishop.
You want me to watch this guy? You think he has a good argument? Making stuff like this?
Black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the...
Do you see the shape my face is making right now? And TAG. Which one should it be? This one? The Tag Masterclass? Just let me know which one you think would be the best to take a look at. But I can tell you right now, it's clear he's pretty fucking racist. Lol, he's corny, and yeah, that's about a group they say they're the real Jew. Yeah, you're talking about the 12 tribes of Judah, or the Messianic Jews, or at least a sect of the Messianic Jews, which is an Islamic sect, is an Islamic splinter faction. I wouldn't necessarily say that they speak for the entire black community, and I would say that it's an extremely bad taste to target a video towards seemingly all black people when nobody knows the context. So it's poor taste, but I'm willing to take a look. I'll take a look at the shorter one, because I don't want to sit here for 40 minutes listening to a podcast from like a racist religious dude.
I was not raised in the church, and I basically developed on atheism due to just a lack of anything else. How is it? I don't think it is possible to convince somebody who...
Skippy, I don't think you need a WoW lore stream. I mean, Bellular has a lot of good WoW lore snippets out there. I would recommend watching his entire playlist. He makes really good videos. Really good videos. Look it up. They're a gross group that doesn't know how to interpret the Bible, but he's saying black kings, black preachers, people of the African persuasion. He's not saying this specific group. He's saying black kings, black preachers, people of the black persuasion. Literally in his song. Anyone would look at that and be like, that's racist. Doesn't matter how bad the group is, you can criticize them for having a bad ideal and not have to mention them being black or mention that it's about being black or anything like that. Even if they mention that it's about being black, the Black Panthers, you don't have to be racist against them. You can be angry at their militant, history. But if you make it about their race, that's straight up racism.
Is in that situation and also is a...
So I would recommend just not
person who
going down that road.
You don't want to go down that road. Come to conclusions.
There's only trouble down that road.
I don't have a lot of
old man Skella went down that road and he got called a racist.
Just take somebody's word for it that there is a God, that Jesus Christ is that God, and all the other things that go along with that. How can do you believe it is possible to convince somebody like that?
First and foremost, no, I do think that there is logical, demonstrable proof for the Christian God.
Absolutely cool. Awesome. Actual proof. I'm ready to hear it. Actual proof of God. Guys, this is what we were looking for. Jesus is king. You might have solved the biggest mystery of my life. Proof that God exists. You're about to break through into the beyond. At this point, we're about to cross the threshold. All right, this could change the world. Now, I'm assuming that there's a good reason why this is not being talked about in all the news and in all the papers and all this in all the empirical documents. But maybe if we agree with it, if we know that it's, if we can have faith in it, then maybe we can spread the message. All right? Maybe we can spread it to all the people that have yet to understand, and give them the real tangible proof that God exists. All right? Let's listen to him. I think I've puffed it up enough. I hope that your hopes are really raised.
I think the transcendental argument is a valid, sound, logical argument.
Let me look up this argument real quick.
I think that the argument is itself about the status of logic and reason itself. So no, I would not.
Oh, it's another philosophical thing. Oh. Well, shit. Jesus. I think you might have given me bad proof. Philosophical arguments do not prove anything. Look up a group called the Black Hebrew Israelite. Dude, I know which group you're talking about. You're talking about people who follow the 12 tribes of Judah. Lol, they think every white person's going to hell. That's how God set it up. Right. I'm saying to you, even if they make it about race, you making it about race, or this guy, makes them just as racist. Doesn't matter if they're being racist. If you call back against them and make it about their race, you are being equally racist. I really need people to stop with the whataboutism. Well, they're being more racist. I don't give a shit. You have the choice to be better. You have the choice to be better than whoever it is that's being racist against you. It doesn't matter what they're arguing. It doesn't matter who they follow. It doesn't matter what religion they are. It doesn't matter anything. It doesn't matter if they're calling you white devils. It doesn't matter. You can be better than them. You can be better by not being racist as well. So, Crack the Sky, welcome. I appreciate you being here. Are there Christians in your life who you trust? Do you hope God is real in the most intellectually honest way Christians who love you have told you, who, in the most intellectually honest way, Christians who love you have told you about him? I grew up in, I guess, in the church. Well, no, Jesus is king. You're still trying to justify being racist against them. Anything that you're saying that isn't, oh, okay, well, I guess we don't have to concentrate on their race. Anything other than that is you trying to justify racism. Any focus on the race as being the problem is bad. I would recommend that you reassess your internal biases. Are there Christians in your life who you trust? Plenty. But I just don't subscribe to a religion. And I have a lack of belief in God. Do you hope that God is real? I don't hope that God is real. I just want to be able to either have people be consistent and say, you know what, God may not be real, but the Bible gives me a lot of good information on how I wish to live and be a part of my community if I ignore all the bad things. But what I take from the Bible as a Christian, talking to this hypothetical Christian, but what I take from the Bible as a Christian is that there are certain ways that are good to lead your life and certain ways that are bad. And we can use the stories in it as allegorical, inspirational quotes that may help people, just like therapy helps people, just like, motivational live, laugh, love bullshit helps people. So that's me. That's like, what I hope is that I can get a consistent answer from the majority of people that I talk to. Once that happens, then I will know that change has been effected in a positive way. That's like me being a Christian, putting my Christian values on... Is Christian a race? That's like me being Christian, putting my Christian values in science and critique. I don't know what you're talking about, with the Bible being the standard. So you're saying that you want to use the Bible to conduct science. I don't know how you're going to do that. Do you remember how the Bible instructs people to give an abortion? Do you remember how the Bible instructs virgins to lay a blanket down on their wedding night? Do you think those are scientific processes? Do you think that parting the Red Sea is a scientific process? Do you think that a snake telling woman to eat an apple is a scientific process? I don't know. I would say that being a biblical literalist goes in exact controversion to science, because the word faith is a thing that you believe in literally, meaning that if I can't explain how something got here, I have to just assume it's God. How does this excuse being racist? Again, this guy has a music video on his channel not saying Muslim kings, Muslim preachers, people of the Muslim persuasion. He says black kings, black preachers, people of the African persuasion. That is very blatantly racist. Again, you guys, people do it all the time, so if all your friends jumped off a bridge, are you going to do it too? You don't have to follow the flow of things. You can say, oh, wait, shit, no, racism is bad. We shouldn't be doing this. And if people of your faith disagree with you, then maybe you should get different friends because your friends are racist. It doesn't matter if people do it all. People fucking kill people. That doesn't mean that killing's okay. People bomb abortion clinics. That doesn't mean that bombing people is okay. Nations with enemies fucking genocide their neighbors. That doesn't mean it's okay. None of that's okay. Being racist isn't okay. Grape, PDF-philia is not okay. None of that shit's okay, even though the Bible supports slavery. That doesn't make it okay. You can have a mind of your own. You know that, right? You're allowed to be thinking. That's what free will is. You can choose to support racism and slavery, or you can choose not to support racism and slavery. And if it doesn't mesh with your beliefs, get different beliefs. But I think, unfortunately, for a lot of Christians, they use the Bible as an excuse to be racist, saying, oh, well, no, God wanted it. It's all good. God wanted it. I can't, my hands are clean. It's God. I will try to stop them and say it isn't a very smart choice. But the Bible specifically endorses slavery. And that's based on the lands around you, which is foreigners, which is others, which is people that you don't necessarily, live with. I am missing the point. I think you're missing the point. The point is that the Bible says some monstrous things, and people use it to justify some monstrous things. And people who are Christian just can't seem to wrap their head around the idea that you can choose to omit parts of the Bible if it is bad. You can be like, oh, well, shit, I don't believe in slavery, so I'm going to ignore all of Leviticus, which is what the Catholics do, even though they still use Leviticus to justify erasing gay people out of existence. The point is, if God exists, he's kind of a dick. The point is, people shouldn't be racist. The point is, slavery's bad. The point is that you can change your mind. And people who are fundamentally religious just refuse to, which tells me that they support slavery, that they support genocide, that they support ethnic cleansing, they support child brides, they support racism, they support LGBTQ erasure. See, now you're whatabouting again. Oh, but what about Abraham Lincoln? I don't give a shit. Hitler was also Christian. The national religion of Germany during the time of the Nazis was fucking Christianity. And you guys will do everything you can to justify, oh, well, that was God's will. He wasn't a real Christian. Those are the two things that I hear the most. How do you know he was a real Christian? Oh, well, God, he has a will, and, if he's gonna be in heaven, there was a reason for it. I personally don't want to go to the afterlife and party with Hitler, because I am not a Nazi. Plenty of Christians do their best to justify the terrible things people have used Christianity for. You're picking whatever verse out of context of a book that's covered over, 6,000 years. I know. The earliest manuscript that we can verify that's been found is around 800 years old. And the Bible was created, I think, 1,600 years ago, right before the Romans started persecuting them. And, yeah. I don't know. That's actual verifiable scientific data that you can find. Yet where's all the proof that God exists? And I'm not picking anything out of context. We did this yesterday, Jesus is King. You were here. We did this yesterday. I went over the actual entire chapters. I believe it was you who asked me to do that. And we established that in Leviticus, he's laying out the laws for his people to follow. And that means taking slaves. That means murdering women who don't bleed on their wedding night. That means, bequeathing your slaves to your children as property. That means beating the fuck out of your slaves as long as they don't die. That's all there. That's all in the Bible. That's all in the Bible and perfectly within context. You guys always try to say, oh, you got to read the whole chapter. When it's like talking about fucking like, oh, okay, you guys stock some honey, stock some wine, use it for ritual sacrifice, whatever. There's a goat on the Sabbath. There's some like fucking, there's some North Star bullshit over here. Here's some stuff that if your family and friends have a person who is their neighbor and can't afford their property tax or whatever, then they can come work for you. It's fine. As long as they're your fellow Israelite, you got to treat them well. If they're a foreigner, however, you can treat them however you want. Yes, hang on, crack the sky. I'll get there in just a second. Okay, so what does that say? You can misinterpret it or use it as a power source. What does what say? Use what as a power source? The fact that God orders slavery? You can say, I don't think that's right. I don't think that I'm going to agree with that. You should read Psalm 77. I was trying to get that. Hey, Alex Jr., how's it going? Psalms 77. I default to the NIV. Love thy neighbor, don't steal, you can buy and beat slaves. You're taking it out of context. Yeah, for real. So forget about the Dead Sea Scrolls. Do you have verifiable proof that the Dead Sea Scrolls prove anything? Or do you have like any of the data that says that they prove anything? Again, as I said yesterday, which you were here for, Jesus is King, please try to remember this. It doesn't matter if 1 million fucking people followed this guy. It doesn't matter if they thought genuinely that he was the Son of God. It doesn't matter if 300 million people thought that he was the Son of God. I don't care. That doesn't prove anything. A consensus of people agreeing on something is not proof. When they agree on something based on all available data from rigorous testing, that I would consider proof. Jesus is not God. He said that he is not a liar, John. The fuck you doing? I don't know. What the fuck are you doing? The fuck are you doing? Shit. All right, Psalm 77. A psalm. I cried out to God for help. I cried out for God to hear me. When I was in distress, I sought the Lord. At night I stretched out untiring hands, and I would not be comforted. So I cried out for God and at a time of trouble, and he did not answer. I remember you, God, and I groaned. I remember you, God, and I groaned. I meditated. My spirit grew faint. You kept my eyes from closing. I was too troubled to speak. You gave me hope, I guess. Inspired me. I thought about the former days, years long ago. I remembered my songs in the night. My heart meditated. My spirit asked, will the Lord reject forever? Will he never show his favor again? Has his unfailing love vanished forever? Has his promise failed for all time? Speaking to God, he's not getting back to you. You're still trying to find some hope in him. You're trying to understand, is he like, fucking around with me? Is he going to answer me? What's up? It sounds like this person's really struggling for some self-actualization. Make America straight again. I don't know why you'd want that. Because being gay is not a problem. Nor is being LGBTQ in any way, shape, or form. I don't know how you think they affect you. They don't. Then I thought, again, none of you're just talking out of your ass, though, 800 years. I may be wrong on the exact number. Is the oldest physical of the Bible. Certainly not 6,000 years old. Okay, yeah. So the Codex Vaticanus, I said 1,600 years ago, which was when Christianity started. I guess I was mistaken. But 1650 to 700 years ago is where, or 1,700 years ago is where the original manuscript is from. Not 6,000 years. I think if you're a young Earth creationist, you're supposed to believe that the Bible recount stories from the last 6,000 years, but that's not how old it's supposed to be. Who's talking out of their ass? Certainly not me. Sorry about you. Then I thought, to this I will appeal. So, at no point has God said anything to him, to this person. I don't know who they are. Is this Jeduthun as Asaph, or of Asaph, that who's saying this? Either way, sounds like trying to cry out to God. Well, no, I corrected myself. I just, Googled it on the screen here right now, just now, and it said 1650 to 1700 years old. So I corrected myself. I was wrong on that. But you know that doesn't prove anything, right? Again, you could prove that the Bible goes back, I guess, 6,000 years. I don't know why that would mean anything, but it's still written by men. It wasn't written by God. It wasn't actually, like, even most Christians would agree that the Bible was written by people. Just saying. That's Tickety-Boo America was a good idea that got out of hand. I mean, I don't know if it's... I would say that even as early as the Trail of Tears, even as early as the first Thanksgiving would be considered things getting out of hand, perhaps? I don't know. Ethnic cleansing is kind of a no-no in my book. So I would think that from the very inception of America, it's like, bro, you don't know basic shit, man. Jesus is king. You have sat here now for, I think, 3 days I've seen you here listening to me talk about the Bible, quoting directly from it. And yet I make one mistake and you think that I am now completely non-credible. Do you see how weak your faith is? That you have to completely try to discredit me with fucking nuance? I'm sorry that your book advocates for slavery. I'm sorry that you think that a racist guy is someone that you should listen to. I'm sorry that you think that racism's okay. I'm sorry that you keep trying to excuse all the monstrous things that the Bible does and says. But you can just say, I don't like that stuff. Can you at least admit that slavery's wrong? Can you admit that slavery's wrong? I would just like to see if you can admit that.
And to believe Christianity just simply on hearsay or because somebody claimed to have had XYZ experience. I mean, it's not necessarily wrong to believe on the basis of hearsay because, I mean, somebody could, as the examples I gave earlier, you could believe in something true for bad reasons. So plenty of Christians are convinced of Christianity for bad reasons. I mean, we see that with the classical arguments. I mean, they're bad arguments, but they do work at times to convince people for the wrong reasons. However, when it comes to the truth or falsity of the positions themselves, I mean, that's a separate issue even from bad arguments about the position. So I would say, and that would be the fallacy, right? Just because something's badly argued doesn't mean that it's necessarily true or false. So
even he supports the fact that me making a single mistake does not disprove what I'm saying. So, all demonic assignments are broken off of God's children. In Jesus' name, receive it. Sweetie B, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You want to try to explain that to a person who is not a Bible person? I'd be happy to approach it, but it doesn't make sense. Oh yeah, sorry. I got to continue reading it. Then I thought, to this I will appeal, the years when the Most High stretched out his right hand, I remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I remember your miracles of long ago. I will consider all your works and meditate on your mighty deeds. He is calling out for God. Let's see if God responds. Your ways, God, are holy. What God is great as our God. You are the God who performs miracles. You display your power among the people. With your mighty arm, you redeemed your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. The waters saw you, God. The waters saw you and writhed. The very depths were convulsed. The clouds poured down water. Okay, so it started raining. You said that God is good. So you're like, I'm in trouble. I need help. But I didn't hear anything back. I'm thinking about you, and I'm thinking about God, and I'm thinking about, how you were inspiring to me before. So I really gathering myself, and I'm trying to say the questions that are most on my mind. Will the Lord reject forever? Will he never show his favor again? Has his unfailing love vanished forever? Has his promise failed for all time? So I'm having a crisis of faith, right, as this person. Then I thought, to this I will appeal. So I'm arguing myself back into faith. So talking about all the things that the Lord did, I'm going to meditate on these, talking more good stuff about God, saying what you did, talking about how the world recognizes your power, led through the sea, way through the mighty waters, that your footprints were not seen. So really just extolling the virtues of God. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. Okay. Should I continue? Where in this does it prove that God exists? You just want to know my thoughts on it? I think it's a lovely sentiment. And I think that if people find it inspiring and motivational, and it encourages them to go and do good deeds, I'm all for it. That is a psalm I can get on board with. No, but we can prove thousands of people doing the same shit throughout history, saying, this is what it is, listen to me, shows 2 or 3 passages, that's it. Right, I didn't show 2 or 3 passages. I showed the entire chapter. You asked me to do this yesterday, dude. I did it yesterday. Like, do you want to go all the way from Leviticus 1? Where we talk about burnt offerings? You're right, beam me up, Bob. God likes to be extolled quite a bit. And you're not allowed to extol anybody else than God, unfortunately. Because, I mean, I don't think that Jesus is king. I don't think that any of this is going to prove that he never said that he supported, or that he never ordered someone to take slaves. Because these were the laws that he was laying out for the Hebrews that had just escaped, I think, their own slavery, I'm pretty sure, when they escaped from Pharaoh. They're trying to build their own nation. He's saying, well, okay, here are the things you need to go by in order to make that work. The Lord called to Moses and spoke to him in the tent of meeting. God, I need a tent of meeting. I need a tent of meeting. I need a bag of holding, and I need a tent of meeting. Because that's badass shit. Like, who wouldn't want a tent of meeting? You know? Like, come on. Meet me. What? No, you couldn't say meet me. Join me in my tent of meeting. Does that not sound insanely cool? Come on. I'm trying to go to which chapter is it? I can probably just type this in. Leviticus. I don't know if these are the. Oh yeah, okay. So I believe. Wait, hang on. Do you think God likes barbecue, a pleasing aroma to the Lord, dude? Nobody dislikes barbecue. The only reason that people say they dislike barbecue is because they dislike the smell and the choking quality of smoke. But if you eat barbecue, anybody who eats barbecue cannot say they don't like it. It is scientifically impossible. That's just facts, you know? So yes, God would love barbecue. I love barbecue. God would make more sense if he wasn't all powerful. Yeah, I mean, I think... So, I mean, EC 19764, I hope I don't ever have to say that whole name again. You've seen the vids where they compare God to Loki? I haven't, but I'm willing to take a look. That sounds pretty cool. I think, like, one of the things that I really would like to hear from Christians is that, okay, well, I don't think that God's all powerful. I don't think that God's all good. I don't think that God is above making mistakes. Like, my whole interpretation of what God was growing up was exactly like us, just a slob like one of us, just a stranger on the bus, trying to make his way home. You know? You could have called him on the phone. You didn't have to be there all alone. You know? You get it? That might be too old of a reference. Do you guys remember that song? Or did I just not make a lot of sense to most of you? If so, sorry. So, Jesus is king. I don't know where from the beginning of the statements about the laws for the year of Jubilee, I don't know where in here you think the context was lost. I would really like to, believe that I'm taking this out of context, but I really don't believe I am. I don't. I just don't believe that. That's the problem. You have no idea who God is. Well, I was telling a joke, first of all. Second of all, nobody knows who God is. God is, by his very nature, unable to be perceived. You can't know God. That's according to the Bible. So, yeah. Sorry, Adrian Dragos, for you being so wrong. Where is it? Okay, so here is the quote in question that you say was taken out of context. Jesus is king. Let us see, from the beginning of this chapter, right? Let us see where he says it's not cool to own slaves. All right, let's just see where he says it's not cool to own slaves. Let's just take a look. All right. The Lord said to Moses at Mount Sinai, not saying it's not okay to take slaves there. Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land I'm going to give you, the land itself must observe a Sabbath to the Lord. Still not denouncing or decrying slavery. This dude is leading you to death. Death meaning if we don't subscribe to your God, we're going to burn in hell. That doesn't sound like a threat to you? Because, people typically don't take kindly to threats. And if you say that if you don't believe in my God, you're going to burn, do you think that makes people more likely to become Christians or less likely to become Christians? Do you think threats make people more likely to convert or less likely to convert? Just saying. John 3:15, that's like what they hold up at all the biggest sports games, right? Is 3:16, 3:15, something like that? What about that whole, do unto others thing? Treat your neighbor as you treat yourself. Don't you want people to come to God? Doesn't seem like it. For 6 years sow your fields, for 6 years prune your vineyards, gather their crops. Still not saying slavery's not okay. Hang on. But in the 7th year of the land, it is to have a year of Sabbath rest, Sabbath to the Lord. Still not saying slavery's not okay. Hang on. You do not sow your fields or prune your vineyards. Do not reap what grows itself or harvest the grapes. Okay, apparently it's still not talking about slavery not being okay. Whatever the lands yield during the Sabbath year will be food for you, for yourself, your male and female servants. Okay, servants, not slaves, and the hired workers. Okay, so we've got a distinction between hired workers and servants and temporary residents. Now that's pretty important. Yes, it was. You were threatening me. Even if it's a passive threat, you're still threatening me. You're threatening me and any other atheist. You're saying that we are going to burn in hell, whether it's by your hand or by God's hand, if we don't believe in God. You can't prove that God exists, therefore you can't prove that it's a natural consequence of not believing in God that I go to hell. So, you only have to take that from hearsay. I'm literally just reading the Bible. Like Adrian Dragos, I don't know where you think I'm getting this information, but it's straight up the Bible. I'm just reading the Bible. So if you think that the Bible is heresy, then maybe it's you who's going to hell. So it makes a distinction between servants, between hired workers, and temporary residents. That may be important, down the road a little bit. Let's just see. Whatever the land produces may be eaten. Still not saying slavery is not okay. The year of Jubilee. Count off 7 Sabbath years, 7 times 7 years, so that the 7th Sabbath year amount to a period of 49 years. Then have the trumpet sounded everywhere on the 10th day of the 7th month, on the Day of Atonement, sound the trumpet throughout your land. Doesn't say... Kerbago, how can you prove he doesn't exist? That's not my claim. I didn't make a claim that he exists or not. It's up to you to make a claim that he exists and then back that up with evidence. That's what I'm asking for. Can you prove that God exists? Very simple. Sounding a trumpet throughout your land still doesn't make slavery not okay. Consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee year for you. Each of you is to return to your family property and to your own clan. The 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. Do not sow and do not reap what grows of itself, or harvest the unattended vines. Still not saying slavery is not okay. For it is a jubilee and is to be holy for you. Eat only what is taken directly from the fields. Still not saying that slavery is bad. So, what context am I missing here? Still doesn't say slavery is bad. And you guys say that the Bible is a blueprint for life, which means it tells you all the stuff you need to know to lead a good life. So, still not saying slavery is bad. Okay, in this year of Jubilee, everyone is to return to their own property. If you sell land to any of your own people or buy land from them, do not take advantage of each other. Well, see, that's nice. That's a good sentiment. I think I agree with that. You know, don't take advantage of people if you're trying to conduct business. No, it's not. CRBGO, that's a horrible, horrible take. Slavery is property. Slaves are property. Slaves are owned by their masters. So no, it's not employment. Especially if the Bible provides you with a provision that says you can beat your slaves, and as long as they don't die, you don't pay a fine. But if they die, you pay a fine. So no decrying slavery in general, but also doesn't decry abusing your slaves. Let's see. You are to buy from your own people on the basis of the number of years since the Jubilee, and they are to sell to you on the basis of number of years left for harvesting crops. Still not saying slavery is not okay here. When the years are many, you are to increase the price, and when the years are few, you are to decrease the price, because what is really being sold to you is the number of crops. Do not take advantage of each other, for fear your God, for I am the Lord your God. Yeah, don't gouge people. Yeah. It also says you treat them as family while you beat them with a rod, as long as they get back up after a couple of days. That's how you treat your family? I would hate to be a family member. Do you beat your family members? Do you beat your mom until she's like on the ground bleeding and like near death, but not quite dead? As long as she gets up after a couple of days, it's all good, right? If you treat your slaves like your family. That seems aberrant and specifically evil. Maybe not a good policy to try and justify. You know, I'm just saying, you know, I don't know. Let's take a look at Exodus 21:16. Anyone who kidnaps someone is to be put to death, whether the victim has been sold or is still in the kidnapper's possession. Right. And do you think that somehow supersedes this? Does it? Does it supersede that? What's the difference here? What do you suppose is the difference? Do you suppose that God considers taking slaves? Why would I read the King James version? King James version. Let's switch it both. Let's switch both of them. I don't know if I want the new King James version. Do I want just the regular King James? Is there no regular King? Oh, there it is. King James version. And we'll switch back to the regular King James. There we go. Okay. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. You think that helps your case? You honestly think that this helps your case? Hunter guy, that is a very good point. I do passively support slavery, and I try to fight every day that I can to battle disinformation that, you know, makes things like that okay. I use an old camera. I haven't changed my phone in 10 years, and I walk everywhere. So the only thing that's modern about me is my computer. And I acknowledge very somberly that parts of it were built with slave labor. And I think if we had better foreign policy, we would probably have changed that by now. But unfortunately, that shit benefits rich people. You asked if the Bible condones slavery. Yeah, I mean, it orders slavery. Let's see. I'm trying to find where it talks about slaves. Strangers that do so. Here we go. Yeah. Thou shalt not rule over him with rigor, but shall. Okay, I'm trying to find the part so I don't take it out of context here for you, Jesus is King, if you're still here. For they are my servants, who I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondsmen. Great. Totally great. Unfortunately, that's about your fellow Hebrews. What's my case? I don't fucking know what your case is. You haven't actually presented it. No cobalt or lithium, huh? I have no idea, man. I don't know. I tried to do my best. And I acknowledged that it was wrong. Slavery's wrong. Christians will do everything that they can to justify slavery up and down, but they won't actually admit that slavery's wrong. Jesus is King left rather than just plainly admit that slavery's wrong. Because it's in your book. You just can't get over it. What else would someone do if they had no income, no land, or no way to eat if you lived 6,000 years ago? Well, there is no record of what happened 6,000 years ago unless you read something from the Eastern accounts of what was happening back then. But you certainly wouldn't become a slave. You would only become a slave if you had no choice. And that means that you're now owned as property. So do you bash Islam as well because the slavery in the Quran is rampant? Yes, any religion tends to be exploitative of people, according to their own religious texts. So, yeah. I decry most organized religions. Christianity just happens to be the one I am most familiar with. Oh, where did you read that? Where the fuck did I read what? You got to address what I'm saying, man. No, the Bible says, look, moreover, the children of the strangers do sojourn among you, of them ye shall buy. So, not slaves? Who said in ancient history being a slave would be a bad decision? Well, I believe it was Adrian who said that. Oh no, you said slavery is employment. You can leave your employer. You know that, right? Are you aware that you can quit your job? Do you think that you can quit slavery? Because no. No, you can't. You're passed down. Right. Hiring someone isn't slavery. True. And that's not what happens here. It's not what happens. They call them slaves, man. Moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, strangers, meaning people from other lands, of them ye shall buy. You can have freedom. No, you can't. Not according to slavery. And of their families that are with you, which they begat on your land, they shall be your possession. This is your book. Yeah, I ain't digging the slavery thing. I'm going to go ahead and turn in my notice. I mean, that would be great, if you could just give up being a slave. But unfortunately, you can't. CRBGO, I don't know who the fuck you think you're talking about, but you cannot just leave slavery. Only their fellow Hebrews, or Israelites. Only your fellow Israelites can leave in the year of Jubilee. I'm reading your book. Maybe you should try it. Right from your mouth. What do you mean right from my mouth? Where does it say that? Where does it say what? You got to point out what I said because there's a delay on the stream. The Bible condones owning other people's property, beating them and passing them on to your children as inheritance. It's a gross book. It is a gross book. And if you're a Christian, you don't have to follow every book in the Bible. You can be like, well, I think that Old Testament shit's pretty aberrant and pretty gross. So I'm just going to not do it. To obtain freedom. How? Where? Where can you obtain freedom? You're talking about the year of Jubilee, where your fellow Israelites come out of slavery at the year of Jubilee. Even then, they still differentiate between hired servant and slave. You're still trying to justify slavery. Why can't Christians just say slavery's bad? Why can't you guys just say the words, slavery is bad? Why can't you just say that? Why can't you just say, man, even if I disagree with what you're saying, I agree, slavery's bad. Bible is also a story of what happened in the old days. Then why, if God was laying out laws for people to obey, why couldn't he have said, don't take slaves? Especially if it was a thing that he was witnessing, because he's all powerful and he can see everything. If he was witnessing that, people taking slaves, he could have made that a commandment. He could have been like, this looks to be one of the most evil things in history. This looks to be one of the most evil things in history. I'm going to go ahead and say, you probably shouldn't do that when laying out my laws for how you're supposed to live. Instead, he said how you treat your slaves. Instead, he said, in ancient times, people had no choice but to become somebody's property. You know that the people who took slaves could have just said, oh, okay, well, I'm hiring you as help, instead of, you are now my slave, right? Like, they could have just said, oh, I'm not going to own you. If you want to leave, you can go ahead and leave. But that's not how slavery fucking works. What are the words that make this difference? In modern times, slavery bad. No, in all times, slavery bad. There was never a good time for slavery. Again, you're justifying slavery. How do you fucking sleep at night with a fucking Bible tucked under your pillow? You're justifying slavery. You know that that's what people before the Civil War did. They used the Bible to justify slavery. And now you're doing that just casually. Just so you know, not that I think it matters to you, but you won't be able to understand the Bible fully without the Holy Spirit. Yeah, it's weird how it's some exclusive club that only the devout can get into. How do you guys convert people then? How do you make people see revelation? Because that's supposed to be like key, right? Like, again, you guys really should try reading the Bible sometime. It has a lot of interesting stuff in it. And you can either choose to follow it or not, because you have free will. I don't know. Seems like you're doing a lot of, oh, but it's because of this. Oh, but it's because of that. Oh, but it's because of this. Rather than saying, yeah, you're right. Slavery's pretty bad. And it's really unfortunate that it was in that book that we use as the foundation for how we live. I don't support it. But yet nobody said that. None of you guys. There's been 3 people in here now for multiple days. Not any of you guys, but there have been 3 people now who've been here for multiple days when I've been talking about religion. None of them have actually just definitively said that they do not support slavery. Do you know how I know that people use the Bible as a shield? Because of that. Because you have every chance to say, you're right, slavery's wrong, and they shouldn't have been doing it back then, and God certainly shouldn't have given you instructions on how to do it, even if it was more humanely, which I still don't believe that beating your slave for a couple of days and being okay as long as he doesn't die means anything humane, but he could have just said that. He could have just made that a policy. That could have been a law. And people argue, well, free will's a thing. Yeah, right. But God's also omniscient and omnipowerful, so he could just snap his fingers and make all that shit work. So, right. So you can admit that those laws were bad, that those laws should not have been followed. If you could admit that they were bad, that they wouldn't fit in today's society, then you can admit that people shouldn't have been following those laws. And maybe God should have said something about it, you know? Instead, he gave you instructions on how to do it. And he gave you instructions on how to differentiate between your fellow Israelites and foreigners. So there's even a component of racism there. Like, I don't know how you can continue to defend the Bible. Like, at least that part of the Bible. See, this is what I'm saying. Like, if you have weak faith, that means that you are unable to accept new concepts. That means that you are going to defend something monstrous. That doesn't mean you have, like, people would say that that's strong faith. That's weak faith. Because you're not using your own free will to go outside the confines of what has been established for you and look at it objectively and say, slavery's not fucking cool, man. I'm going to do what the Catholics did, and I'm going to ignore the book of Leviticus. It wasn't necessary. Explain to me why slavery was necessary, why it was necessary to fucking own people. Why is that necessary? Again, why argue that slavery is an option to have a roof over your head? No, it's not. Fuck you. You can build a shelter. You have shelters when these fucking armies are coming in and destroying your fucking living space and killing all your family members and then saying, oh, hey, I guess you've got no fucking home to go back to. Come work with me. I'll own you, but that's okay. You have no fucking choice. They didn't have the industrial age. Fuck you! Stop defending slavery, or I'm gonna fucking kick you from the stream. Like, you cannot hear information that directly refutes what you're saying and continue this line of questioning or continue this line of logic, because it is a losing line. Society moved beyond what you're talking about, and you're still trying to defend it. That's fucking evil. I hope you don't have any loved ones. I hope that you're completely alone. Because I would hate for anyone to love you knowing that you have these thoughts. I would hope that you second fucking guess yourself every single time you go to hug someone, because you're trying to justify slavery. That's so fucking wrong. Like, why would you ever do that? Just because you believe in a book? The people around you who you're taking slaves from are the people who you see every day. You don't see God every day. You don't see him fucking looking down on you, smiling from a goddamn fucking cloud. You are surrounded by people who often don't necessarily share your same fucking views. And you're going to impress that upon them, that slavery was okay because I get to, what? I get to be okay with that because it was in a fucking book that CR, I really just wish you would listen to me instead of just trying to argue. Shaking my head is not an argument, but it's a way that I feel over this exchange. You're saying evil shit. You're trying to justify slavery. You're justifying taking people as property. That is plain wrong. You can't even admit that that was a bad section of the Bible, that maybe, that might have been a mistake. Maybe that might have been a piece that people added over time, I don't know. Hey guys, sounds so cheerful in here this morning. Stay warm and safe. Just because I raised my voice does not mean that I am not still cheerful. I'm also losing my voice, so I need to stop raising my voice. I'm like what do you call that? I'm like Italian, I'm like half Italian. I got the but still smiling the whole time. You're getting roasted and you're trying to justify slavery. You need to do some serious self-reflection. He's not even getting roasted. I'm so disappointed that somebody can hear this stuff and look at the stuff in their own Bible and be like, yeah, that's okay. That's all right. That's okay. I don't even have to say that was bad. Maybe God made those laws because it was an inevitable occurrence at those times. CRBGO, are you honestly fucking sitting there trying to tell me that you think that God is not omniscient or omnipresent or omnipowerful? Are you honestly going to be trying to say that because most Christians disagree with you? 99.99999% of Christians disagree with you. They claim that God is all-powerful, that he is all-knowing, that he is, most of them claim all-loving, but some who try to justify slavery, like you, for instance, would probably say, like, maybe he's not all-loving. He's going to make you believe, or he's going to make you, come to him, even though he has the power to teach you all the lessons that you could potentially learn in life. I believe in second causes. I don't know what the fuck you think you're talking about, but you just sat here trying to justify slavery. And you still haven't said that slavery is wrong. You just said that it was wrong, or that it's wrong now. Protestants believe he's the first cause. I don't give a shit. Your Bible says that slavery is good. I mean, I'm checking again. Yeah, to inherit them for a possession. You may bequeath them. I don't know where you can see that it doesn't say to take slaves. You can have free will if he changes every choice you make. Right. But he invented free will. He invented the ability to make choices. He invented the mind. He invented the universe. He invented the world that we live in, all the circumstances that we live under. He invented the rules. He invented the laws. He invented every cell in our body. He invented every single part of us, if you believe the Bible. And so now you're honestly trying to say that slavery was inevitable. So you're taking a lot of power away from God. You sound like a really shitty person, CR. I hope you know that. I hope that you don't defend slavery in real life. I hope that this is you like letting out all of the pent up, expression you've wanted to make over Christianity. And I hope that you don't actually say things like this in real life. Do you think that gay people are real? Or do you think they're demonic? Do you believe that, people deserve to die based on the color of their skin? Or based on, which body parts they have or don't have? Free will takes a lot away. What the fuck are you talking about? No, it doesn't. He can still cause a flood to kill every single person in the world. He can bomb an entire city, which is the cradle of civilization. He doesn't lose any power just by giving somebody, free will. At least he's not supposed to, according to you guys. That's really weird. It's CR. I feel like you have extremely weak faith. I think that you just all of a sudden, I think maybe you're a born again. Because all of a sudden you think like, oh, all of a sudden everything that God does is okay. But you're just taking away the idea that evil can exist, including in the Bible, and maybe at God's behest. Free will is free of coercion. Threat of hell is coercion. Yeah. Believe in me or go to hell. Believe in me or go to hell. So God doesn't change your choices, but he's certainly holding a dagger over your head. If you choose to murder someone, that's your choice, not God's. Well, no, not really. If you think about it, if you, according to your Bible, God is the one that spoke life into existence, right? God is the one who created man. So God created man with the capacity to be evil. He could have left that out. Don't believe in fire prisons. That's what God says. I mean, I don't know what you think. Are you now denying what the Bible says? I mean, you've tried to support slavery and that didn't work. And now you're trying to say that the words in the Bible don't even exist? Love cannot exist without the inverse. That's not true. Hatred, jealousy, evil. I mean, maybe in nature, duality can be expressed in feelings like love and hate and things like that. I don't know that it's that simple, though. You have to explain consciousness in order to be able to explain, the root of all feelings. And so you can't say it's required for anything. You can say that they come hand in hand with different emotions. Where do you find fire prisons in the Bible? I don't give a shit, man. I don't believe in heaven or hell. And I believe that you have, you guys co-opt whatever words and meanings that you want to mean whatever words and meanings you think they should. CR, I feel like maybe you need to, do some self-reflection a little bit. Jesus is Lord. Lord of what? Because I think, what was the passage where he says that he's not actually God? How can you be both the Son of God and God? Then why claim that fire, prison, hell is in the Bible? Because if you don't believe in God, then at the end of time, you'll be cast into the lake of fire, just like Satan. I mean, I'm just saying that, I don't think that I should be threatened to believe in God. I don't think that I should be joining a religion based on there being a gun to my head. Especially not a religion that endorses slavery, which you still haven't, addressed, really. You're just trying to talk about other things that aren't your support for slavery. It'd be nice if you could just like put that to bed, just like hell is a state of being, according to you, but according to most other Christians, that's not correct. So, keep fighting about Jesus. Islam will come and destroy your way of life. I am arguing against Islam as well. I don't believe in any fucking religion. Lord means ruler. Ruler of what? Maybe learn Easter Christianity. Oh, you mean Eastern? Yes, I'm watching Jesus. There was, was a time before time, and there will be a time after time. Religion is very logical. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, have a good one, Helmet. I'm not religious, but to be honest, I find it hard to separate hell in the Bible from Dante's hell. Lord means bread guard. Just so you guys know, I super don't give a shit about the nuances of the Bible. What I do give a shit about is that it supports slavery, it encourages the murdering of women who don't bleed on their first time, and it endorses wholesale genocide. I mean, I just don't think that it's a good book. I don't think it's a really good book to follow. I think that people, if they want to make a case for Christianity, they're going to have to omit a lot of the Bible. So, in the Bible, it only talks about slavery in its time. It talks about how you need to treat them nice, and a slave should obey their masters. I mean, so, Angel, you're talking about a couple of things here. You say that in the Bible, it only talks about slavery in its time and talks about how you need to treat them nice. That's not correct. You can beat your slave with a rod, so long as he doesn't die. That's not treating them nice. And handing people down to your kids as property, that's not treating them nice either. Taking slaves in the first place, that's not nice. Doesn't matter if it was a product of the time, God could have ended it. And even if, he could have at least said, it's not nice, please don't do that. He didn't do that. He endorsed slavery. He gave you instructions on how to do it. So. And the slaves should obey their masters. What part of that makes it okay? You're saying that slaves should obey their masters. Why the fuck do there need to be slaves in the first place? Punishments are prescriptions. You don't simply implement them whenever an issue occurs. What the fuck are you talking about? You don't simply implement them whenever an issue occurs. I mean, why should anybody be beating their slaves? Well, no, he invented free will, he invented choice, he invented the mind, so he can do whatever he wants. You keep saying that he was constrained. God's not constrained by anything. God is not constrained by anything. Doesn't matter what he wanted, what his desires were, what he wished would happen with people. He murdered them twice. He murdered people twice. Everyone. Twice that we know of. And endorsed slavery. So, nobody needs to be beating slaves. Nobody needs to be taking slaves. Nobody needs to be buying people as property. Nobody needs to be doing any of that shit. People can just not do that. That's all. Who said what? Like I said, you have to address the thing I said. Who claimed he isn't restricted by free will? Well, because he is omniscient, omnipresent, omnipowerful. He's all powerful. He's all-seeing, all-knowing. He can do literally anything. That's illogical. So's fucking magic. So's talking bushes. And talking donkeys. And guys riding down from heaven with flaming fucking swords. You don't think that there's several illogical things in the Bible? A beast emerging from the ocean. None of that seems illogical? If you want to talk about logic, you certainly are not going to have to mention, or you certainly don't get to mention the Bible. People logic their way into believing in Jesus. That doesn't mean that A, it's true, or that B, they're using the right logic. I can create a flowchart that, you know, gives people a better opinion about cake than pie. That doesn't mean that I'm right. Doesn't mean that I'm not biased. Biblical slavery was not based on race. I don't fucking care, Angel Jimenez. You honestly think that I give a shit if it was based on fucking race? The whole point is that slavery's wrong. It was wrong from the beginning of time to now. That is insane that you would even try to say, oh, it wasn't based on race. Fuck you. The practice of kidnapping for slavery was explicitly forbidden, and yeah, we read that. Regulations provided more protections than surrounding cultures. I mean, you could decide not to take slaves in the first place. You know that there were plenty of cultures that didn't take slaves. I mean, many cultures who just didn't take slaves, who just didn't feel the need to take people as slaves. I don't know. I will defend certain parts of the Bible sometimes even as a non-Christian, but not clearly denouncing rape in all forms is crazy. Yeah, for real. I mean, like, the Bible doesn't say that grape is a problem, doesn't say that child brides are a problem, in fact, encourages people to kill women who don't bleed on their first time. I don't know. Doesn't seem like a good book. Just saying. So I'm supposed to suppose your feelings are a logical claim. When did I ever say that? I don't know. So, just typing it into Google right now, I can tell you that, let's see, some of the Mesoamerican tribes didn't take slaves. Incas, for example. Old Kingdom Egypt didn't use slaves. Well, they had slaves, but they didn't build the pyramids with slaves. I guess they figured out. Used to build it. Take care of largely better. Yanacuna. So yeah, I guess the Incas, the Spanish thought that the Incas were using slaves, but it was a mixed economy system, actually, based on work contract. So it was more like socialism. So, like, a lot of the indigenous, like, non-urbanized peoples around the time did not take slaves. Like the Australian Aboriginals. Yeah, if you were doing foraging and you haven't yet known much about the slave trade, you probably were not engaged well in it. The Achaemenid, Mesopotamia, Achaemenid. Anyway, there were a few. It's worse than that. God punishes David by commanding his wives to be raped. God is totally okay with it. Well, yeah, he actually commands that they be raped within view of people to assert his power. Let's see. Sin enters a perfect world by a mistake. God makes no mistakes. All that. So if he makes no mistakes, then you're directly controverting what CR was talking about. God gave us a way around sin. We could not comply. God came as a perfect human. I mean, whatever mythology you believe in is fine, but my whole point is that it's bad to take slaves, regardless of whether it was okay at the time or not. God's promise that if we believe in his Son, his righteousness will be imputed on us, and if we don't, we burn in the lake of hellfire. The Bible treats rape as a serious crime. No, it doesn't. Sin, violation, often describing it with terms that imply humiliation, violence. No, it doesn't. It is portrayed as a defiling act. No, it is not. So, I don't know why people continue to lie about the Bible, but you guys are well within your rights to say that the Bible's not a good thing. You can say, it sucked, that, you know, it was a really shitty period in time, and a lot of people in modern days, after the Industrial Revolution, decided to use it the book itself as a, fucking, hey, love the talk, gotta go to the pre-workout kick. Yeah, have a good one, CR. I hope you change your views and be less of a piece of shit. I hope that when you hug your loved ones at night that you've changed your mind a little bit, because they can tell that about you. If you didn't know. People get kind of a weird vibe from people who support slavery. Understandably, though, I'd get a weird vibe if I, was interacting with somebody who supported slavery. We're not called to defend slavery or the historicity, okay, of the Bible, just to share the gospel. I mean, wouldn't you want the thing that you were spreading to be true? What if it happened? Like, that's, I guess maybe my fear for you is what happens if Christianity is definitively proven false? Like, what happens if fucking Vishnu comes down and says, like, hey, dude, I'm the only God. I'm sorry. I'm the only one up here. I'm sorry, man. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe I can't see him, but I'm literally God. So I don't know. But, like, if that's true, then wouldn't you be spreading false information? That's where faith comes in, right? Like, you have to convince yourself that it's true. On hell, I'm going to boot you from the stream if you don't actually address any of the things that people are saying to you, because you're saying some really ignorant shit right now. It's also punishing someone else for something David did. There is neither slave nor free. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. There were definitely slaves in the Bible. Also, with Christians having slaves in the modern era, they had to take some parts of the Bible to justify it because they knew it was wrong. I disagree with what they did. That's the first person that has been transparent about disagreeing with what people did. But you realize that you're being highly specific. The entire modern Western world came out of Christianity. No, it did fucking not. What the fuck are you talking about? Why do you think we started this country? Why do you think we have a separation of church and state if it was all coming out of Christianity? You know that most scholars were deists, right? They weren't Christians. But the kingdom of God is within. Fuck yeah, Neo Slinky, you said the first thing I agree with. Well, not the first thing. Slavery is bad. I agree with that. But I also agree with that the kingdom of God is within man. Not one man, not a group of men, but in all men. In the people. So, I would say that just because the people who, were the leaders during those times believed that, either God or some kind of God, or maybe gods existed, that also doesn't mean that that's why they formed the religion, or why they formed the government the way that they did. Correlation is not causation. Yeah, that all men are created equal. And endowed by their creator, not God, endowed by their creator certain inalienable rights. So what you're doing is you're taking the Declaration of Independence, which is not the Constitution, but it is a good document. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles as organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, wow, I don't think that's a word, pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to the candid world. Justin Harris, you can say that all you want, but that's not what the Founding Fathers believed. I do agree with your stand on slavery in the Bible and how no matter the treatment is good or bad, it shouldn't have happened. Thank you, Angel. You are my favorite person today. You're my favorite person today. I think if you could go one step further and say that you don't believe that those words should have been in the Bible telling you how to beat your slaves, like maybe he could have, I don't know, said something a little better about it, then you'd be my extra favorite person ever. 17th and 18th century Enlightenment period abolition of slavery. You know that we had slaves in this country, right? And that it was justified through the Bible. Like that it was their destiny, that God gave them slaves. And you know what passages they pointed to? I'll give you a hint. It was in Leviticus. Just saying. Charities, hospitals, schools, orphanages. What the fuck is your point, Justin? You saying that makes up for slavery? That makes up for God saying that it's A-okay to own slaves? You shall take slaves from the lands around you. From them you may buy slaves. Buy slaves. And then you bequeath them to your children. That's pretty shitty. I'm just saying. And, yeah, I don't know. The unanimous declaration of the 13th United States of America, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them to another, and to assume among them the powers of the earth, the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. Yeah, I mean, I always have lines open for people to call in. Some days I emphasize it and some days I don't. But yeah, I'm always down for people to call in. Slavery is wrong, period. Fuck yeah, Neo Slinky. Fuck yeah. I agree. Slavery is wrong. No justification can ever convince me that slavery was ever okay. There was never a point where slavery was good. It was always bad. And I think even if we look at it through the lens of the people that lived at the time, we can still say slavery was probably bad. Even if I didn't live at the time, I can still say that slavery was bad. You know, owning another person, just pretty bad, you know? It's just pretty like, it's a shitty thing, you know? Own another person, I feel like it's kind of a shitty thing. I feel like it's kind of a shitty thing, you know? I feel like it's kind of a shitty thing. There are a lot of verses in the Bible that are indefensible. That's right. When will we change? When will we change? You know? It's true. I don't think that people need to just throw off religion altogether. I think that religion helps people individually. I think that there are a lot of people out there who just don't have a way to process whatever it is that they're feeling, whatever loneliness or trauma they're going through, and to them, religion helps them process it. I think that's great. It doesn't matter what religion it is. I think that if you subscribe to some organized religion and it helps you, and you can acknowledge that there are definitely indefensible things in whatever text you follow, then you're the kind of religious person that I respect. And I respect, you know, the principles that people live by under religion, but I don't think that it's good or productive, especially to non-Christians or to non-religious people, that it just consistently seems like Christians have to make things up, have to alienate other people, have to otherize people, have to insulate themselves, and then go around justifying slavery. You know, I don't know. See, I forget who it was that mentioned earlier that I was, consuming products that encourage or that perpetuate slavery. That's fine. I can acknowledge that it's a bad thing. That's something that Christians tend to avoid, is taking responsibility for their God. Well, he's all-knowing and he's all-powerful, so I can't say shit against him. Yeah, you can, because you have free will. That's like people who are afraid to say no to the president. Like, you can say no, right? Like, he can fire you, he can arrest you, he can probably gun you down in the street, but you're allowed to say no. It's people that are afraid to stand up to injustice. And that's why you get people in here trying to justify slavery, because it supports their way of life. You know? RPP, I am typing on a live stream chat. Oh, or our world as we know it comes from Jesus, the apostles, the early churches, from the Roman Empire. If the victors of conquests write history, then sure. But I would say that that marks a very significant problem, a huge red flag. And you should probably, I would guess, you know, you probably haven't analyzed that very closely. I would say you should probably, you know, take a look at that. Why that is. Why does the largest religion in the world feel the need to be all-encompassing? Is it because it's true, or is it because its leadership needs it to be true? And even if something's true, it doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's good. I think the step that I would take beyond, you know, asking someone to prove that God is real, my next step would be, can you prove that he's good? Because I can prove he's not. Maybe you should take a closer look at what? I mean, I have debunked every single point, or every single piece of evidence that has been thrown my way since this stream started. I don't know who among you still needs to be convinced that the Bible may just kind of be like a wishy-washy book, but feel free to offer more shit if you want. Take a closer look at what? Because we took a close look at Exodus, and he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, shall surely be put to death. That doesn't mean people who sell themselves, like, sorry. Imagine that I just fought a war against your nation, and my nation won. I come in, and I've killed all your family members. I have razed your house to the ground. And I then say, if I give you a shekel, you must come and work for me. You may not leave. You may not have children that are not, like, you will be considered my property. And if you don't have a shekel, I will just take you and we'll hold that shekel as a debt. But you are going to come with me because you have no choice now. You don't have a job, you don't have a family, you don't have a house. So now you get to come with me. You get to live with me and my family. But I'm owning you. I own you. You don't get to do whatever you want. You don't get to be with whoever you want. You don't get to go wherever you want. I own you. And I can beat you with a rod as long as you don't die and you get up after a couple of days. That's your new life. Congratulations. I don't think that really seems like a good thing. And if I was Christian, I certainly wouldn't want that being something that I lived my life by. So, just saying. Why do we not love that way anymore? I don't know. Why do we not live that way anymore? Because along the way, people determined that slavery was wrong, and Christians were like, damn it! Shit! And then they were able to convince people all over again that it was good. And then eventually when, in the modern world, people were like, slavery is wrong, they were like, fuck! Damn it! Shit! Damn it! Survival of the fittest? I would say that's a really bad principle to live by. Really bad. Like, do you know how civilizations started in the first place? Because among the nomadic tribes, among us as early humans, there were people who wanted to go lone wolf, who wanted to be, the guy. I want to be the alpha Chad of the hunter-gatherer world. Do you know where those guys are? Do you know where they are? Justin Harris, I'm asking you specifically. I agree with what you said, because no matter if you beat your slave or even if it lives, it's not okay. That's right. And so you're one of the Christians that I would agree with on that. Nate the Gen, I also believe that bacon is pretty godly. No, dominating other people through force and might like the Romans. Why is that not the modern way? You don't think that people dominate each other by force? I mean, do you remember how we went and caught Maduro? Bombed the country, infiltrated the country, stole its leader, then took that country over. Do you remember how we got this country? Do you remember the term manifest destiny? Again, Justin, I think you're defending a losing battle here. I think this is why Christians tell each other to be strong in your faith, because, I mean, there's a lot of shit you got to answer for. Might makes right. I mean, it doesn't. It only makes right in terms of who gets to write words in the history books. But it doesn't mean that you are a good people or that you did a good thing. Even if you think that you're, like, eliminating terrorism, you know? I don't know. Justin, I'm sorry. You don't seem to be understanding what I'm saying. Maybe, like, I don't know. Maybe try to listen just a little bit. Because you're not understanding me. You haven't understood a word that I've said. Just because people do something doesn't mean it's right or good. And you, as a human being, have the choice to interpret whether that's right or good. And you can either support slavery or not. It's really as simple as that. You keep trying to make it about other things. It's not about anything other than that. We took Americs from 68 million natives with bless, then 800k whites, and some biological warfare. Might makes right. Nobody cares about good or morals. People do care about good or morals. I do. I care about good and evil and morals and shit. I care about that shit. I don't think we should have taken the country by force. I don't think we should be taking any country by force. It's only among typically younger people who believe that, you know, might makes right. You're not as smart as you think you are. I mean, you didn't attack any of my arguments. You're just calling me not as smart as I think I am. And yet all I did was I read you your Bible. So I'm only demonstrating as much intelligence as is in the book that you follow. You see how that works? I'm reading the book to you. I'm telling you what the book says. I don't know. It sounds like you have to resort to magic to mental gymnastics your way into supporting slavery. Which, at the end of the day, I'm an atheist, and I'm saying that slavery is wrong, which you believe that atheists don't have any morals. Most Christians believe that atheists don't have a framework for morality. I'm saying that slavery is wrong. I'm saying that grape is wrong. I'm saying that pedophilia is wrong. But all of those things are A-okay in the Bible. So, I don't know. I would say maybe just listen to me instead of trying to prepare the next thing that you're going to say and then thinking like, oh, well, how am I going to prove this guy wrong? You should just probably try to listen to what I'm saying. Because all I'm saying is that slavery is bad. And you have yet to agree with that. So which side are you on? Which side of the battle does that put you on? Believer of obvious myths says someone not smart. I don't... See, that's the thing. I think that it's really unproductive to try and debunk each other by saying, oh, you're stupid. I think that the best way to debunk someone in my position right now is to offer scripture that disproves the things that I'm saying, or to talk about the scripture in the way that you interpret it. Because just like Angel said, I agree with Angel. I'm in Angel's corner, man. Like, even though he believes things that I don't believe in, he still said slavery is wrong. The idea that slavery is bad is a Christian it tells you to own slaves! Oh my God. Moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them ye shall buy, and their families that are with you, which they beget on your land, they shall be your possession. The Bible does not teach that slavery is wrong. The Bible specifically instructs you to take slaves. You still haven't attacked that point. You still haven't justified any of this stuff in that it means anything other than slavery. You keep saying that slavery was the product of the time. How does the book end? Non-believers get thrown into the lake of fire. That's how it ends. So if any of those former slaves or their descendants decided not to believe in God, they go to hell. The world preaches survival of the fittest. No, it doesn't. I'm asking you how you think civilization got started. We need to influence the government to make better decisions for people. It would help a lot. Everything is so corrupt these days. Well, no, governments do not need to be making decisions for people. If governments were good and not corrupt, then sure, but that ain't a thing. There is no such thing as altruism when you're talking about positions of people in power who have the opportunity to be corrupted, or have the potential to be corrupted. Well, Abhinav, I don't know why you would say something like that, because I'm against all religion, but also using great language to determine that you really shouldn't be listened to at all. Just saying. Wah! You guys don't like my religion. Wah! That's what it sounds like. That's what you sound like. Sorry. Sorry about you. Sorry you suck.
And there's the same with atheists. A lot of atheists become that because of emotional reasons.
Sure. Well, my first...
Well, no. Atheists are by their very nature just born. Atheists just lack a belief in something. Atheists often do not believe in the contrary. They just don't believe in something. Like for me, for instance, I just don't believe in God. I think that if God is real, I can acknowledge that God's real if someone was able to provide me with proof. And then I would be like, I don't like you very much. I don't know. I just don't like the things that you're saying is okay. So I would decide not to worship that God. And he'd say, okay, but you're going to burn in the lake of fire. I would say, all right. So be it. I really don't want to party with Hitler in heaven, so enjoy that. The Bible's far better than the Old Testament of the Quran. No, it's not. And you know that the Bible includes the Old Testament, right? Jesus said, you still wouldn't believe. If God came up to me and said, hello, I'm God, beamed himself into my room, I would believe that God exists, but I don't have to support him or follow him. That's what my free will tells me. That's what your book tells me my free will says I can do. Justin, you're racking up L's here, man. I wish we had a tally going. You're just presupposing all these things. Even if there was... Well, no, wrong. I just said that I would believe that he's right, or that he's true, but I wouldn't believe that he's right. I believe that he exists, but I wouldn't believe that he's a good guy. Like, you're not even listening to anything I'm saying. You haven't been listening to anything I've been saying this entire time. You're just, here's an atheist. I'm going to say everything that I've recited in the mirror, and I'm just going to type that into chat. I'm giving you information. That is very good information. You not listening is your free will. What even is atheism? It's a lack of belief in God. How can you be sure there's no God? I'm not saying there's no God when we know so little. I'm just saying I don't believe in God. I have a lack of belief. I'm chatting over like 40-something characters on an iPhone, brother. I said I always have lines open for people to call in. If you want, I can give you the Discord. But you're never going to convince me that slavery is okay. So I don't know why you'd even want to try. And if there was proof, again, I would believe, but I wouldn't trust. You can believe that someone's real. You don't have to like that person. You don't have to support that person just because they're in a position of power. I don't know. It sounds like maybe you don't realize that you have free will. Or that you're intentionally like trying to subvert your own free will. I don't know. I don't know what that idea is. When they pretend like they don't get why people are skeptical of their religion, it reminds me how dishonest. Oh yeah, fucking tell me about it. I don't want to convince you of that slavery is okay. You've been trying to this whole time. You've been trying to convince me that slavery is okay. It always takes mental gymnastics. I don't have a problem with you not believing in Jesus Christ. God has a problem with me not believing. But not believing that there is a God, any God, seems a little... It's not that I don't believe in anything. I don't believe that... I believe that there's every chance that Jesus was a real person. I do not believe that he was the Son of God. I do believe that the Bible exists, but I do not believe in God. I believe that the Bible says a lot of heinous shit, but I don't believe in God. Do you see the difference? I just don't have a belief in God. I am asking if somebody can give me... I swear to God, you said this yesterday, but the Shroud of Turin is not... Oh no, you said something about the Dead Sea Scrolls, I think. Did you say Shroud of Turin? Slavery in the Bible... Hang on. I don't have a problem. Slavery in the Bible times is more of... Warren Edwards, you're missing the point. Slavery was never okay. Listen, brother, if you're going to be a slave either way, you're going to either be a slave to the world or to God. You don't have to be a slave at all. God could have just told people not to take slaves. Shroud of Turin has been studied by a nuclear engineer. Dude, I don't give a shit if the fucking Pope himself investigated the Shroud of Turin. One person saying something is not proof of anything. I believe in a creator. Okay, good for you. Where does God take a dump? Now that's a good question, my sports roundup. I don't know. Probably in the forest. If the Pope poops in the forest, and if bears poop in the forest, then God probably poops in the forest. Don't think for a second you are free. If you think you are free, you are deceived. If I don't believe in a religion, then I don't subscribe to any idea of being beholden to something. So I don't know. I don't believe that I'm a captive to any extent. How can you believe that he is not the Son of God when you don't believe in God in the first place? What? How can I not believe in something if I don't believe in something? Do you listen to yourself when you type things out? Because that's what that sounds like. Dominion by Tom Holland is a book by a secularist that compiles all the ways the modern/Western world was positively influenced by Christianity. I don't care. Again, millions of people believing in Christianity doesn't mean it's real. Doesn't mean that that the Bible is true and authentic and a legitimate piece of history or a scientific document or even a true document. Even 100 million people, even a several billion people believing in a religion would not make it correct or true. So, sorry. Well, no, if you can give me evidence that isn't easily debunked, I'd be happy to look at it. But you're providing me with things that every Christian tries to provide as proof, but has already been debunked by now. So, I don't know. I don't know what you want from me. Have you considered taking DMT to see God? I really would like to try DMT. I would like to try ayahuasca, acid, all those things. I've only done shrooms in my life, and they were cool. But I haven't tried DMT. That'd be cool. I would love it. The classic, is the cup half full or half empty? What is that? What do you mean? What is that an argument for? How is the Shroud of Turin debunked? Okay. Shroud of Turin, a linen cloth that tradition associates with the crucifixion and burial of Jesus, has undergone numerous scientific tests, the most notable of which is radiocarbon dating, in an attempt to determine the relic's authenticity. In 1988, scientists at 3 separate laboratories dated samples from the shroud to range between 1260 and 1390 AD, which coincides with the first certain appearance of the shroud in the 1350s and is much later than the burial of Jesus in 30 or 33 AD. Aspects of the 1988 test continue to be debated. Despite some technical concerns that have been raised about radiocarbon dating of the shroud, no radiocarbon dating expert has asserted that the dating is substantially unreliable. In 2019, the editor of Nature, a journal in which the radiocarbon dating study was published, said that nothing published so far on the shroud offers compelling reason to think that the 1989 study was substantially wrong, but apparently was not definitive either. The creation of the research project... Hang on, let's see if we can get to a conclusion here. The final protocol. The proposed changes to the Turin Protocol sparked another heated debate among scientists. The sampling procedure was postponed. April 17, 1988, 10 years after the STIRP had been initiated, British Museum Scientific Director Michael Tite, that's an interesting last name, published in in Nature, the final protocol. Laboratories of Oxford, Zurich, and Tucson would perform the test. They, what was the fucking conclusions? Okay, criticism and test results. Here we go. Hang on. I know that belief implies faith, and you are not ready to put faith in something you can't see or feel yourself, but therein lies the problem. We are mortal beings who are limited by our senses. Right, and what about your perception tells you that God is correct? Did you see him in a dream? Did he come to you into your room and talk to you? What verifiable proof do you have that God has had a real, actionable, measurable influence on your life? And that it wasn't just your self-actualization, your internalization, or you processing something, or some amount of trauma. Terence McKenna, reserved DMT for the most hardened skeptics. DMT is the atheist converter, hands down. Even, oh my God, you guys, you're missing the entire point here. Even if I believed that God is real, you then have to ask yourself, is God good? And from the passages in the Bible, it's pretty clear that God is not good. So, I don't know. Even if he's real, why would you follow him? It's purposely designed so you cannot prove God. That's where the concept of faith... Right, Justin, don't you see a problem with that? Doesn't that throw up red flags to you at all? Come on, man. That should be obvious to you. Oh, hey, I've got this thing. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't hear it, you can't feel it, but just trust me that it's a thing. Trust me, and trust this book that I have. It was written by people who directly spoke with him, so you know they're right. Do you not see the problem with that? Now bring it forward hundreds of years with millions of followers. A cult converted into a full-on religion. Do you not see the problem with that? The road to God starts with belief. I know it's all upside down, but that's how it works. It's like when I meditated once, I instantly knew there was a lateral dimension to... Why does that mean God to you? You're extrapolating God from nothing, from a series of experiences that you had. You're giving it God. You're not allowing yourself to interpret what it is. You are using something that you already know, a framework that you are already familiar with, that then you connect with, that you're saying, oh, must be God. That's like someone walking through a desert and seeing a pebble roll across their path, and they look at it and they're like, must have been God. That's the same shit. Correlation is not causation, and there's a million things that things could be other than God. Christian News and there are other peer-reviewed... Yeah, for real, like... If you're on Christian websites as being an expert in something, perhaps you might have a little bit of bias. DMT reveals a God that is pure unconditional love. Unconditional? Kian, Eris. Unconditional? Do you want to refer to the Bible on that one? That his love is unconditional? Because there are several people who would cite Leviticus that says no. And then, there are people who would say, well, that can't include gay or trans people. That can't include people in any other religion. So I don't know how you would think that poses no issue, but that's really scary. That's a scary type of fascism. Religion could be wrong, but there's this thing called a personal relationship with him. With a person that you cannot verify is real? Do you know how unhinged that makes you sound? I can't believe he's real. I can't believe I can't prove that he exists. I cannot even perceive of him according to my own book, and my book is written so that we can't prove that he's real. Do you give money to churches? Does that perhaps maybe throw up a red flag for you? If you put someone in a position to be corruptible, they will be corrupted. James 1:17. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. Okay? From the lands around you, you may take male and female slaves. You may buy them as property. You may hand them down to your children as property. You may beat them with a rod until they are like down on the ground on the edge of death. But as long as they don't die, it's all good as far as God's concerned. I know where you're going with this. Your argument is if God can make something so hot that you can't touch it and introduce something you can't do, right? Could you answer the question, maybe? Yes, any citing of the Bible that you think God is evil or immoral is only a surface level reading of the text, which ignores and denies agape. DMT reveals just that. Okay, so God doesn't endorse slavery? So yes, I maintain that the entries you point to, such as Leviticus or what you have, you pose no issue. So I have to alter my perception in order to agree with the things the Bible says? Good point. I don't know why you think that helps the case of the Bible. God has blinded their eyes and closed their minds, so their eyes would not see, and their minds would not understand, and they would not turn to me, says God, for me to heal them. So then how is he an unconditional loving God? You guys are contradicting each other here. You will bow the knee, will all the rest, no matter what, and you won't be able to claim ignorance. It's very obvious. I've read the Bible twice. You use the same strawman arguments, atheists forever. I mean, wouldn't that just tell you that Christians keep using the same arguments? If we keep saying the same things, it's because you guys keep trying to... There's only one book you can refer to. There's only one book you've got. Am I Muslim? No, I don't subscribe to any religion. Keep reading into the shroud. I would if there wasn't chat messages to read. What if God was a woman and Satan is the good guy would change things? Why do we have to speculate? Slavery's wrong. Period. Slavery's not okay at all. And God endorses and even instructs slavery. You can keep the Bible aside and still have a personal relationship with God. Then do that. Then completely shirk the Bible. Or at least disavow the passages about slavery and beating your slaves and about, unilateral murder for no reason of young women who don't bleed on their first time, or, the genocides that God did on the people of the earth twice. You can just denounce those things, and you could be like, I don't trust those things in the Bible. I don't think that they're good. I think they raise little red flags for me, but I choose to follow my relationship with God because that is what I find fulfilling, and that is what I find helps inspire me to do good deeds. That's the kind of religious people that I like, that just use it as a framework to inspire them and encourage them to do good things. The religious people that I don't like are the people who says, this is a factual document, everything that it says is correct, and I need to support, and God is completely infallible and never makes mistakes and is super good and totally great. I'd be so happy if someone was to just, tell the truth, right? Yes, Sodom and Gomorrah and the Great Flood. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his internal power, invisible, right? Unable to be conceived of. His eternal power and divine nature, so trust me, bro, have been quite clearly seen. Trust me, bro. Being understood through what has been made. Trust me, bro. So that they are without any excuse. Trust me, bro. It's only our illusion that we are separate from God and that God is immoral. The fact of the matter is quite the opposite. So you're saying that God is evil, that God is not all good. If anything, he's the opposite of that, whatever it is. What about the over 2,300 archaeological discoveries and the over 230 prophecies fulfilled in the scripture? Just random luck, eh? Well, you're going to need to provide me with any proof that any of that is true. I have seen no prophecies fulfilled, and I have seen zero verifiable pieces of evidence archaeologically. So... you're going to have to just kind of put some links there. You think the Bible is the most genocidal book in the literary canon? I don't fucking care, Boran. An evil book's an evil book. Regardless of, whether it's the most evil book. Still an evil book. The Big Bang Theory itself assumes something came from nothing. It doesn't assume that. Never did. Do you believe in any type of creator / God? I think that it's entirely possible that there was a creator for the human race. I think that if we want to get into infinite regression and say that there was a creator for the creator, sure, maybe. I don't deny that. There's so many random things that happen in the universe. It would be folly of me to believe that anything that's possible is impossible, because that would defeat my entire core beliefs. Like I said, if you were to prove that God, you yourself said that you never, like, you wouldn't believe even if he was real. That's not true. I'd believe that he was real, but I wouldn't believe that he was good. And for the universe, what does that mean? Google that one. Daria, Google prophecy fulfillment, okay? Which prophecies from the Bible have been fulfilled? All right. First, let me continue with radiocarbon dating here. Can something come from nothing? Nobody's arguing that. That was so mean. What did I say that was mean? For the universe. When you have DMT, you'll understand. In the meantime, you're going to... Right, it's always, oh, you'll understand if you do this thing. You'll understand if you read the Bible. You'll understand if you talk to a preacher. You'll understand if you do DMT. Then why haven't all Christians adopted DMT as a holy anointed thing, or a supported thing to do religiously? Can life come from non-life? Nobody's arguing that. I don't know where you're getting your information, but nobody has argued that. Although the quality of radiocarbon dating itself is not questioned by experts, criticisms have been raised regarding the choice of the sample taken for testing, with suggestions that the sample may represent a medieval repair fragment rather than the image-bearing cloth. It's always some qualifier, isn't it? You know? It is hypothesized that the sampled area was a medieval repair which is conducted by invisible reweaving. Since the C14 dating, at least 4 articles have been published in scholarly sources contending that the samples used for dating, or for the dating test, where's my thing? The dating test might not have been representative of the whole shroud. These included an article by American chemist Raymond Rogers, director of chemical research for the Shroud of Turin Research Project, who was involved in work with the shroud since STIRP began in 1978. Rogers took 32 documented adhesive tape samples from all areas of the shroud, and associated textiles during the STIRP process in 1978. Hang on. I'm looking away for a second. What do you think about Professor Jiang and how he argues that people on the top are trying to fulfill prophecies before time by building the third temple? I don't know anything about that. I hope that other people in chat know about that, because I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. The Christians of the Temple of the True Inner Light have adopted that. Okay. Again, I don't really know what that means. Yes, thank you, Neo Slinky. Fuck slavery. I'm arguing for the catalyst of the universe. I don't fucking care how the universe started. Who or what pushed over the first domino? No idea. Don't care. I think it's really funny that God selectively interacts with people only to freak them out. High when they're high. Yeah, I mean, I guess if God only shows his face when I'm high on DMT, that would be a pretty traumatic experience. It's like, holy shit, you didn't show up under any other circumstance, and now you're here while I'm tripping balls. Please just chill out for a second. Third temple over the Al-Aqsa Mosque. All right. This sounds like a geopolitical thing that I might not be entirely familiar with. And I can't speak on stuff that I don't really know a lot about, because I don't want to like, I don't want to be like, what do you call it? I don't want to marginalize or like assume that I know something that I don't. So I don't want to speak on that if I'm not 100% on it. You said, why haven't Christians adopted DMT? They have. Not en masse. How many members does the Temple of the True Inner Light have? What is it? Temple of the True Inner Light? Oh, the Temple in Manhattan, which believe that psychoactive substances used in spiritual... Okay, gotcha. So, a lot like Telma. Are you, Abhinav, are you familiar... Or not Abhinav, sorry. Kian Aris. Are you familiar with Telma? Or the left-hand path? I have the I have the Chaos Sigil tattooed on myself. Well, it's... sorry, hang on. All the prophecies. All of the prophecies. Okay, do you have one that's not from a Christian source? I got a source here, Reasons to Believe. I got a source here for the Ministry of Jesus. I got one for Building Jerusalem. I got one from Jehovah'sWitnesses.org. I've got one from New Testament Christians. I've got one from United Church of God. Would you like to provide me with a source that's like, you know, reliable, unbiased, verifiable? Benny Hinn School of Ministry Online. Now, are any sources that you might have secular? Jesus Film Project, School of Ministry. Click on which one? Just give me one to click on. I'm guaranteeing you that there's a lot of fucking bias in most of these sources. So these ones are what the AI believes are actually fulfilled. So the birth of Jesus doesn't prove he was holy. His ministry doesn't believe he was actually divine. Crucifixion doesn't prove he was divine. Entry into Jerusalem doesn't prove he was divine. His betrayal doesn't prove he was divine. Prophecies to fall to Cyrus? I mean, again, if the Bible was written way after this, then of course it would say it. Right, according to the Bible, Warren. If all you're ever going to have as a source is the Bible, that's what we like to call unverifiable. I would like to, you know, hey man, I'm out of here. Oh, sorry. There's a couple of other chat messages. You're getting my sub even if I don't agree with you. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Why are you concerned about religious belief, political implications? Because I'm trying to get a discussion started. Hey man, I'm out of here. I love you and pray God will reveal himself to you. So do I. If your prayer comes true, I'll know God is real. But then you'll actually have to answer the question, is he good? That's a bad follow-up. Or at least it's a concerning follow-up. If you truly want to know if God exists, ask him sincerely. I have. I was pursuing religion at one point in my life and never heard a response. I would believe that he's real, but I would not trust him or follow him. Because of, you know, the slavery. That kind of, that... And of course, like the massacres, you know, the what you call it, the genocides and the, you know, the ethnic cleansing and all that stuff. I don't really jive with that. So I wouldn't join Christianity even if I knew he was real. Yeah, have a good one, Helmet. Doesn't matter where it comes from, they are facts. Facts based on the Bible. Right? So again, if the Bible's your only source, I'm going to have to say you need a different source. I'm not religious, but isn't it misleading saying one source when the Bible is a collection of several historic... It's not. It's a book. It's a single book. If you can prove somehow that it was actually written by the people it says it was written by, then cool. But a lot of the times, those accounts are usually, again, unverifiable. You have to believe this entire book based on faith. At some point, as many times as we decide to split infinitives, as many times we decide to split hairs and try and get to the nitty-gritty of things, it's always going to come down to faith. There's always going to be a gap in the belief or a contradiction somewhere, and you're going to have to just take it on faith, that it means what you think it means. And there are 23,000 other denominations of Christianity who would disagree with you on that specific interpretation of the Bible. After a lot of thinking and being very honest with you, I feel like all religions were created in a fight for legitimacy, but beyond all that resides a God that we are ignoring. That's something that I can actually vibe with, Abhinav. If you say that there is a God beyond all of this, beyond the debate over which religion is right, beyond the debate over whether God exists, beyond the debate over whether he's good or not, if there is, even taking all of that stuff out, and we were to look beyond that and say, there could still be a God out there, I can vibe with that. I can vibe with that. Because it could be anything. God could be a space alien that seeded the planet with genetic material, and what a poor choice of words, but still, he put genetic life on the planet, and then that would have been God. And like, you know, the people of ancient times would have been like, oh gosh, I don't even know what that thing was. He had tentacles, he had shit coming out of his face. I don't even know what he was. But he created us, and that's God. In that vacuum, I'd be like, whoa, what a fucking cool story. Weird. You know? I'd be like, whoa, that's cool. I would actually be like into that because it would be a cool thing, a cool discovery that we have made as humankind. You know, that there was some like crazy God there and was like, whoa, holy shit, he like put life on the planet. That's so fucking cool. Keon Aris, God doesn't condone slavery. Doesn't he condone slavery? Because he does. Let me put it back to the NIV. I fucking hate the King James version. The King James version. Partially because I can't even say the goddamn name. So, let's talk about womankind. Mankind is a blanket term for all the genders. I am not particularly religious, but I'll take Christianity over communism anytime. Do you mean real communism, or the communism that's been co-opted by dictators to mean something completely different? That's actually fascism, just so you know. There is a God that is... God doesn't condone slavery. You're conflating theology with biblical history, which is a false equivalent fallacy. Weird that Bible say slavery good, isn't it then? Your male and female slaves are to come from the nations around you. From them you may buy slaves. You may also buy some of the temporary residents living among you and members of their clans born into your country. And they will become your property. That's conflating historical accounts with the Word of God? You sure say damn God quite a bit in your talking. Yes, I came up with a mother who was very free with using God's name in vain. Even though she worked for the Salvation Army. She got actually about as actually, I can tell you, since there's more than a few people here, there's more people here than there are usually. I would love to tell you how I my journey to find God started. Okay? My mom, for a very long time, from the time that I was maybe like in elementary school, she worked for the Salvation Army. She started as a bookkeeper, administrator sort of thing, administrative assistants or whatever. You should do the Talmud. Hang on. Do the Talmud next. I would love to. It's even worse. I bet they're both pretty bad. But you just said we shouldn't trust the Bible. Right. So does that mean that you wouldn't accept the Bible as evidence for an argument? I know what it says. That doesn't mean God condones slavery. Yes, it does. This is Google's law. Or Google's law, sorry. This is God's law. This is the law that he's laying out to Hebrews after the Exodus. So does that not seem like a command from God? Have you read the Huac Tuam? It sounds like it's right up my alley, but I don't think I have. Let's see. I know what it says. That doesn't mean God condones slavery. Yes, it does. Why don't you Google, am I conflating biblical historical account with theology by saying God condones slavery? It's right there in the Bible. You're choosing to ignore that. It's right here in the Bible. It's literally right here in the Bible. I don't know what more you want. This is the Bible. This is your book. I will happily read the Talmud. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm happy to read some of the Talmud next stream if you would like. You, sir, follow. You don't lead. You talk too much. It's a live stream. That's kind of how you operate you talk most of the time. So, I don't know. I don't know what you want from me. So with all the variants of the Bible, which one of them is the one true Word of God? There is no one true Word of God. I don't think that anyone can really determine that. I think you would have to, like, get actual, testimony from people who existed at the time, and they don't exist anymore, right? Christianity, like most of the Abrahamic religions, came from Mesopotamian, like, kind of proto-religions, the most prevalent of which being Zoroastrianism. So if you want to look up the actual origins of Christianity, you look up, what Jews were doing at the time, and then you look up Zoroastrianism and the pagan faiths, and you're going to see a lot of incorporation into that stuff. 2 Kings 2:23 and 24. Let me see. 2 Kings 2:23 and 24. Let us take a look. Do you have a particular version that you like? Oh, thank you, Boran. I appreciate it. From there, Elisha went up to Bethel. As he was walking along the road, some boys came out of town and jeered at him. Now, just so you guys know, Elisha is bald. Okay? That's his crime so far, is being bald. And they jeered at him. "Get out of here, Baldy," they said. "Get out of here, Baldy." He turned around, looked at them, and called down a curse on them in the name of the Lord. Then 2 bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of the boys. Super good God there. Great God you got there. Super awesome. Man, the music down to 5% or 10%. I'll turn down the actual, like, desktop audio. I figured it was sounding a little loud in my head, and I thought maybe that was just me being like a curmudgeon. Like, I gotta listen to the music. Oh, God. All right, let me know if that's better. Rather, slavery being a reality during the time of the OT. He specifically commands it! The entries in the Bible aim to mitigate laws surrounding slavery. He commands it! Not to condone slavery. He commands it! You're clearly mistaken. He commands it! Jesus! Google, am I conflating biblical history account? I'm reading you the Bible! Oh my God. If God gave A&E free will, why didn't they know good and evil before eating the fruit? Let's all just be thankful God let us live in the WoW time of Earth. Skippy, I love your dedication to WoW. You know I used to be in one of the top raiding guilds called Blood Rain? I don't know if they're still... This was Vanilla WoW. I don't know if they're still around. I think Blood Rain is around, but I don't think they're as, like, prestigious as they used to be. But I remember back in the days of late ICC, we did the world first glitch, like when it was still glitched, the Flame Leviathan run. It was good. It was good. You're interpreting the Bible as an average naive atheist. I'm not naive. I read the Bible twice. I do this pretty often, and I have been researching religion for most of my life. So... I don't know. You've been Googling everything else. Right. Because Googling a philosophical question into... Alright. What was it? I understand it's about religion and God and so on, but is there a specific premise? I mean, today is what I like to call... Oh my God, I haven't said the title to you guys. Today is... Ah! Which is a show called Ask an Atheist Anything. It usually happens on Mondays, but Monday was a big political day, so I switched them. Political stuff happened on Monday this week, and religious stuff is today. Am I conflating historical reality with... What was it? Am I conflating biblical historical account biblical historical account with theology by claiming that God endorses slavery. Now, it could say yes or no, but that wouldn't really keep me from, still claiming it. Claiming God endorses slavery involves interpreting biblical historical accounts which detail laws allowing, regulating, and restricting servitude in ancient Israel as divine approval rather than culturally contextual, restrictive, and permitted practices. The distinction is debated, with views differing on whether or not such laws constitute endorsement or containment. Arguments for divine endorsement. Theological view. Some interpretations argue that because these laws were given to Moses as coming from God and include instructions on buying and inheriting slaves, they constitute divine sanction. Arguments from contextual regulation, historical, theological view. Others argue that the Bible, while not immediately abolishing slavery, placed guardrails around it, such as punishing kidnapping with death, limiting the severity of treatment, and allowing for eventual release. Conflation versus interpretation. Whether this is a conflation depends on the hermeneutical approach. If the laws are read strictly as timeless moral commands from God, the claim is seen as theological conclusion. If they are read as historically situated regulations meant to mitigate an existing widely practiced and brutal institution, the claim may be viewed as missing the context. Do you think this supports your argument, Kian? I'm just saying. The next results are religious. So, WoW Classic is great. Come play horse with me, bro. Horde. I haven't found passion in Classic WoW. I loved the ICC rating era, but I don't know. Okay. Can you read that, Kian? I can put that as the whole screen if you'd like, so that you can see it better. What does that say? What does that say? Kian, hey, what does that say? Jesus also said, I come to, or not a jot or tittle of the old laws shall change. He also said, I come to fulfill both the old laws and the new. So I think a lot of people don't really argue about the whole thing like, oh, slavery, that was just in the Old Testament these days anymore, because that's so easy to debunk. It says, anyone who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result. But they are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property. That's God. It's God right there. Kian, I mean, right, no, fulfill does definitely mean to fulfill the laws. I don't know why you just can't look at the Bible and like listen to the words that are being said. Why are you so smug? Do I seem smug? Does me having concern on my face make me seem smug to you? Okay. I can own that then. What concerns you about people having religious beliefs, trying to push them on others, or implement them into laws in my country? That's what I don't like. Slavery isn't law. In the past, God made laws for the benefit of slaves on how to treat them because they existed. He didn't order their... He didn't? Weird, because your male and female slaves are to come from the nations around you. From them you may buy slaves. He didn't order their existence. No, he just perpetuated it and specifically told you how to handle them. Anyone who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result. What you're missing here is that if entry wasn't there, then slave masters could beat their slaves until death without punishment. Why should there be slave masters still? If we are now introducing new laws for how people should govern their lives, and they're coming directly from the big G-man himself, because he laid out the 10 Commandments, right? Like, I mean, he could have just said, don't take slaves. He could have just said, slavery is over. Bye-bye, slave. I'm going to take slavery. I noticed that slavery's been really traumatic for people. I'm going to take slavery and I'm going to kick it out. I'm going to take it and get out of there. Hoya! You know? But he didn't do that, right? He said, thou shalt have no other gods but me. Right, Kian, that you're still trying to establish that there's no morals other than what God puts forth, which is absolutely a thing that you can prove in nature. So that's an argument that has been lost a million times. I don't understand, like, why you think that protecting slavery as a concept is a good thing. I would not try to be justifying slavery if I were you. If you were enslaved in ancient times, you'd be lucky if a people had a religion that prevented you from being starved and unnecessarily beaten. Why does that mean that it's okay? So it's okay now. So slavery is good. Slavery was good. Is that what you're saying? Are you saying that slavery was good? Weird. And just so you know, people in general formed society. Kian, I don't know if you answered me when I asked you this, but how do you think society formed? How do you think civilizations formed? Do you think that they got that way by killing and beating people, or do you think they got that way by gathering together and forming communities? Just because something was a reality of the time does not mean you have to perpetuate it. Well, no, God saying that slavery is over, he would have handed that down as one of his laws. You know that he handed down laws to Moses, right? And that part of those, a lot of those laws came to like apostle or like, what was it, prophets or whatever, who were, was it Amminthel was the guy who, you know, was channeling the word of God to David or David's son or whoever the fuck that was. You're assuming that if you read God knew slavery wouldn't be abolished until today's age. He could have just made it not a thing. And just so you know, Gorgonzola, I don't know what laws you think are no longer valid, but Jesus said, I come to fulfill the old laws and the new. Not a jot or tittle of the old laws shall change. He's omnipresent across all time and space, knowing all at once. So would you say that he's nature's best biologist? Gorgonzola? Would you say that? This is my issue with atheists. They have such a narrow and naive interpretation. Nope. It's not naive. You don't know something that I don't. It's almost embarrassing. Sorry, Kian, you just don't know anything that I don't already know. We've read the same book. He didn't want Adam to know good and evil, meaning Adam was a slave, just like the Israelites. They were his slaves, and the reasons for the exodus from Egypt. What the fuck are you talking about, Pete? They treated those German slaves a lot harsher than the average American slave had to deal with, even though it's 90 plus years apart. There's no distinction between slaves. No degree of slavery is okay. 0 degrees of slavery okay. Yes, God handed down laws for slavery, but laws that met people in the time they lived in to take slaves, to continue to take slaves. To continue to take slaves. You may take the slaves from the lands around you. You may hold them as property. You may bequeath them to your children. He could have said, you may not take slaves from the lands around you. You may not take slaves from, you know, conquered nations or from wherever. You may not take slaves. He could have said that, but he chose not to. He did say, you can't eat shellfish. You can't work on the Sabbath. Plenty of people who work on the Sabbath still. I gotta say, slavery isn't over. We just replaced it with minimum wage. Well, no, currently, prisons are employing slave labor. Privately owned prisons. People get paid less than what is the minimum wage for more work. Let's see. Exactly. And I bet this guy is just another wage slave over here ranting about God. What would me having to work for a living do with talking about God? Why does that make me any more or less valid? The Bible always says not to follow God's law, but if there's a law in your land that goes against his word, is to still follow the law in respect to the king. You're going to have to point out that passage, because that doesn't sound right to me. There are 38 million slaves currently in the world. Does that make it right? A lot of them are sex slaves, but millions are still enslaved in Africa. Does that make it right? It's one thing to read the book. It's quite another thing to grasp and understand it. You don't even understand your own book, man. You don't even understand your own book. Held by non-Christians and pagans. You're still a slave, idiot. Ah, yes. The classic way to win an argument is by calling people stupid. Not because God allows it, or condones it, or endorses it, but because your fellow man still lives in this type of reality. Man perpetuates it, not God. I mean, you're still supporting slavery. Oh, you're a slave. That's not saying that slavery is wrong. You at no point said that slavery was wrong. The guy just doesn't get it. He's going to remain a wage slave. He's going to stay stuck in the Matrix. Ah, so now you're revealing yourself to be what, like an alpha male sort of type, like the kind that looks at those fucking Andrew Tate videos and said, "Oh, that's a real man." Is that you? Christianity still opposes Putin and checks him. You know, he's still waging a war against a nation that doesn't pose a threat to him, right? He wouldn't dare touch the church. Right. You know that Hitler was Christian. My God would kiss your puny God and make him gay. Tell me more. I mean, it sucks that you guys can't just admit that slavery was wrong at all points in history. You gotta bend over backwards just to be like, well, you just don't know the truth, man. You just don't fucking know. You're stupid. You just don't know. I could prove it, but I just don't feel like it. All right? Like, I could totally, convince you that, like, what God said was good, and I just don't feel like it, man. Just saying, It has nothing to do with an alpha male. Oh, don't believe me, or believe me, I don't think that you're actually an alpha male. I think you just subscribe to that stuff. You're so trapped in your mode of thinking, no, I'm not. I'm willing to debunk all religions, not just Christianity. You're like the guy who's so inured and brainwashed by the Matrix that they'll fight to protect it. What Matrix are you talking about? You actually think that we're in a simulation? That would make the Bible not true. It would debunk the entire book. Russian Christians didn't get turned into dictator-worshipping slaves like in China or North Korea. They maintain their faith in the face of persecution and prevail in time. Well, Kian, you obviously don't believe that if you're trying to say that it was okay back then. It was okay back then, not okay now. That's not how that works. Monitor, slavery has been around as long as prostitution. Yeah, probably. Does that make it right? The Matrix is the new church, the digital church. All right. Slavery is the result of man's greed, not God's endorsement. That you don't seem to grasp. Yeah, you constantly say that I'm missing things. Do you not think that that's like a tactic to help you feel like you're in the right? Do you not think that that's like maybe a psychological thing? I've studied this stuff. I'm not like a scholar or anything, but I have absolutely been doing this for a very long time. The neuroscience of religion. There is no neuroscience of religion. What are you talking about? Is actually proving religion with studies and a mystical experience. Okay, sure. Show me a definitive study and I'll believe it. That doesn't make God good. Honest question. Please define slavery. Owning someone as property. I never said it was okay back then. You're justifying it. You're saying that it was a product of the time. I'm sorry, but that's still not okay. That means it was bad back then. You can say it was bad back then too. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to say that I don't think that I don't support that part of the book, instead of arguing with me that it didn't say that. You just don't get it. So you don't agree, or you do agree with that, or you don't agree with that? I don't know. You should look into the neuroscience of religion. Why? I'm sorry, you're going to have to actually show me something. Slavery is morally is it reprehensible? What's a bad one? Reprehensible. Slavery is morally reprehensible. I think it's reprehensible. Google it. You Google everything else. I Google the things that I don't remember off the top of my head. Does that somehow make me wrong? Do you know how to use Google Scholar? Google Scholar searches for peer-reviewed studies. What? Neurons healing when they shouldn't, etc. Mental illnesses being healed in weeks or days. Incurable stuff and miraculous healing. Again, you're going to have to show me, like, links like that prove that what you're saying is correct. You can't just say stuff because it's all just trust me, bro. You can run a Google Scholar search for the term mystical experience and find dozens upon dozens of studies on this phenomenon. Show me one then. Your definition of slavery is owning someone as property. The fact that you're trying to split hairs like this means that you're starting from a place of losing. You're trying to justify slavery. You know what I mean by slavery. It's not up for interpretation. It's very simple. It's very black and white, very easy. You're going to have to provide me with a study. I will not just go and Google things all day fucking long. Did you know you can kill Princess Huhuran with no nature resist if your raid has world buffs? Slavery is when someone holds power over another and makes you a prisoner to do work. They do not own them. They control them by fear, as you can't own a human being. You shouldn't be able to, but plenty of people have used the Bible to justify owning other human beings. You say, show me one, that's what Google Scholar would do. I don't care, dude. You're the one making the claim. Show me the evidence. Literally dozens. Then show me at least one of them.
Response would be, no, actually, I would make a logical, rational argument for Christianity and for the Christian God. And the argument would be that logic and reason themselves are impossible without the Christian God.
Right. So the philosophical argument for God. That's not real proof. You know that you guys can make a flowchart and convince anybody to go down the line to either chocolate or cake. There's no reason to do that. It is really just people trying to, you know, say, well, if I argue well enough, I can prove that God exists. That's not how that works. It's not how proof works. No, I'm really not. If you're trying to define what the words mean, and then I know where you're going. You guys always use the same arguments. You're going to try to define what the words mean, and if I don't somehow fulfill what your definition of, you know, harmfully employing someone, then you're going to say, oh, gotcha, that's not what slavery is. Turns out the Bible was right all along. You see how that works? I'm not going to fall into that line of reasoning because I know that that's not a good, you know, path to go down. Just because slavery is not over doesn't mean that it was okay back then or that it didn't exist back then or that it was... I mean, you're going to have to tell me your point. I don't really know what your point is. Slavery can come in many forms, some much more brutal than others. We are all the least brutal kinds of slaves in America. Slaves in blah, 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 blah. Slavery just wasn't okay. You should not try to own another human being. You should not have that intention. You should not have, you know, anything, really, towards owning another human being. What paper? Did you link something? If you linked me something, I didn't see it. Mystical experiences, phenomenology, and neural correlates. Correlation is not causation. By Dr. Roland Griffiths and Frederick S. Barrett. I will read that. Actually, I might. We're getting low on time on the stream today, but I will maybe do a video on that. Maybe do a deep dive. Bro, slavery is wrong. I said it already. All I'm saying is it's not over. Okay. What was your point though? Inform yourself. You're clearly not informed. So because I don't know your nuanced information that you are trying to introduce to me, I somehow don't know anything. You see how you guys always think in like weird binaries? I spent my entire life learning about religion, specifically Christianity. And I mean, at every point, people try to provide proof, but it's usually something that's written by a Christian or written from the perspective of Christians, or I don't know, just claiming that secular people don't have the knowledge or can't perceive of the knowledge is a really good way to just discredit them. Doesn't mean that they're not right. And it doesn't mean that they don't actually have insight into a topic. It just means that I haven't chosen to specialize my knowledge in your weird little niche that you're coming from. And additionally, if you believe something, that doesn't mean that all of your Christian neighbors believe it. That doesn't mean that it is the prevailing notion for anybody. So, I don't know. I don't know what, what you really want there. Yes, it's the entire point of religion. You say you've spent your entire life learning about this stuff, yet you don't know that modern professionals find mystical experiences in accordance with the perennial philosophy. Do you even know what the perennial philosophy is? I don't care. This isn't some weird little niche. This is cutting edge research. Why would I know cutting edge research? I read the Bible. I read the Bible to you people. I don't care about what's outside of the Bible other than whether or not you can prove that God exists. I can argue about that stuff, but largely I don't fucking care. Let's see what the perennial philosophy is. It's only one R-E-N-I-A-L. Perennial philosophy. Perennial philosophy is the perspective that all major religious and spiritual traditions share a single universal and timeless truth, often referred to as the highest common factor of world religions. It posits that a divine reality underlies all life and that the ultimate goal of human existence is to achieve union with this reality. I can vibe with that. But that doesn't necessarily mean God, though, right? Well, this is the problem. You don't care. If you cared, you'd realize that we have more evidence which points to the divine than not. Well, no. First, the goal is to prove whether or not God exists. Then we prove whether or not he was all good. There's a whole line of thinking here that nobody's even breached the first gate on. You have to prove to me. That's the challenge here, is that you prove to me that God exists. And if I say, okay, I finally accept that God exists, then what I'm going to ask is he all good? Is he all loving? Is he all knowing? Is he omniscient? Is he, whatever people claim him to be? And if you don't believe that he spreads that far, then okay, I'm okay with that. What I'm saying is I don't care about the methods or the modes of delivering that proof. I still care about the proof. The divine reality is what religions have called God, Allah, Brahman, Nirvana. Mystical experiences provide that proof. I'm sorry, but they don't. That allows one to glimpse one. You see that you said it allows one to glimpse divine reality. If we had comprehensive testing that polled like hundreds of thousands of people, put them all together, both religious and non-religious, gave them DMT or whatever it is that you're claiming gives you a vision into God, saw God, and then gave a conclusion based on how many non-religious people saw God as opposed to how many religious people saw God over a certain year period or whatever, then I'd be like, yeah, that's a study that I can get behind. Yes, people glimpse all lovingness, omniscience, omnibenevolence, unique or divine ubiquitousness. So what you're saying is that it was okay for God to curse children so that a bear came and murdered them. What you're saying is that it was okay for God to say that women on their at their first times, if they don't bleed, they should be stoned to death. And I mean, I don't feel like that's all loving. All loving would not be genociding the world twice. Omnibenevolence, genociding the world twice, saying that you may still own slaves. I don't know, especially if you can see into all moments of the future and past, you should be able to know that at one point we try not to have slaves, and then be able to look back and say, okay, maybe that wasn't cool. Maybe I should just genocide the world again, Of course, he promised he wouldn't do that, but, he's God. He's infallible. He can do whatever he wants. And just because you may not believe that God's a tangible person or appears as an entity or whatever, that doesn't mean that you subscribe to what the majority of your peers would subscribe to. Blah, blah, blah. You would say, you can't say, I'm sorry, but they don't. I can. Whenever you've never even had a mystical experience, I have had what I would associate with mystical experiences. I've done plenty of psychedelics. You're just speaking out of prejudice. No, I'm speaking out of reading your Bible to you and you just not being able to accept that. That's what these studies have done. They had atheist volunteers and many other type of volunteers. Okay, I'll take a look at the study. If it's worth doing a deep dive into, I will. No, I'm saying that you're conflating very surface level interpretation of the divine as if God was literally anthropomorphic and caused genocide. I mean, he does, and according to a lot of Christians, he did. Interpretation found with mystical states of consciousness. Again, you know, you're talking about fringe sciences, you're talking about pseudoscience, you're talking about stuff that hasn't been proven. So I'm going to prove what I can't prove with stuff that hasn't been proven before. Come on, man. My only bias is that I have a lack of belief in God. That's my bias. And along this whole fucking experience, religious people tend to just make stuff up more than they do listen to me. You're thinking of God as a man with some supernatural powers. Most Christians think of God as a man with some supernatural powers. Have you ever talked to other Christians before? Yeah, you're thinking of God as literally as what Matt Dillahunty calls a mafia boss, or Dawkins calls malevolent bully, or the sky daddy. That's not what God is, but rather is a straw man of God. Not according to most Christians. If you can convince the rest of your fellow Christians to adopt your belief, then I'd have a much smaller problem with it. If he was actually saying in the Bible, oh man, you know, like, I'm looking around and I'm seeing that there's some slavery that exists. You guys just make sure, like, don't take slaves, don't kill those slaves, whatever. He never said that, but he could have. I don't know. I feel like you can pick a different God. I don't know. The neuroscience of religion. Can you find me like any study that hasn't? Would it be better if you let someone of us up and talk better than chat? No, I have the lines always open for calls. Usually it's in a pinned comment, but people don't call in, so I tend to just stop saying it. But I'm always open to calls. We actually could do that tomorrow if you guys like. If there are people that want to like call in to the Discord, I'd be happy to field calls all day tomorrow if you want. Though tomorrow's a gaming day, but it's up to you guys. And welcome to streaming. They have 4 different conversations at once. Come on. There has been refined over decades worth of research. Right. Is any of it posted on non-Christian websites? I'd be happy to check it out. Well, don't get your theology from most Christians. Why not? You guys seem to believe that a preponderance is all it takes. So wouldn't it be the most people who believe the thing that you use as a basis for religion would in just kind of by its own property be right? Go to the most notable Christian philosophers, theologians, mystics. Like George Carlin said, most people are fucking dumb. I agree. And you know that George Carlin was not religious, right? Shall we adopt all their standards? I'd be down to call in. Good. I'm down too. Yeah. Better than chat always. I mean, I am happy to start tomorrow's stream because we only have an hour left today. I'm not barely even an hour left. I would be absolutely down to have you two, if you want to call in tomorrow, I'd be happy to start the stream with you calling in. If you want. I agree that it's better than chat. I mostly present myself as a call-in streamer, but I can't, like, it's hard enough to get more than 2 viewers at a time. I just have to get, you know, enough to facilitate that working. Because the only person that's watching calls in, it's not a super good show. Not very entertaining. Despite popular belief, George Carlin was also not an atheist. Right. You can be secular and maybe a deist, but you don't have to be an atheist all the time. Like, there are people who believe in God who are not necessarily religious. I like those people because they tend not to defend slavery. So, I don't know. I would much rather, you know, that people are consistent in what they say their beliefs are. And if they dislike a certain piece of their beliefs and accept all the rest, I'd be much more happier to accept that than anything else, than all the mental gymnastics that people continuously go through to try and justify all the terrible things that happen in the Bible. Oh, it's just a product of the time. Oh, God does that so that he can teach people lessons. Oh, you know, that's okay. Maybe women didn't bleed, or maybe every woman bled their first time back then, so no innocent women died. Were you ever a theist at some point in your life? No. How and when did you figure out that it's all made up? I didn't think it was all made up. I don't know why you guys can't understand the difference between an atheist and someone who says there is no God. I'm not debunking religion as much as I say that in a sensational way. I don't care about debunking religion. I think that religion can be a tool for good if people use it that way. Very few people do that, though. In terms of it's all made up, I don't think it's all made up. I think that there are definitely some accounts of things that happened historically in the Bible, but I do not believe that any of those things indicate or necessitate God in any way, shape, or form. I think that a lot of this... I'm turning the face cam off so I can hit this bowl, just so you guys know. I think that a lot of stuff that happens that we attribute to God can be easily explained by just, reality? I don't know. I feel like it's not that it's all made up. It's that I don't believe in a lot of the stuff it says in the Bible, specifically the stuff about slavery, specifically the stuff about murdering innocent people. That I don't believe in. That is the stuff that drove me away from becoming a Christian. Reading the Bible. Like, how insane is it that a person who read the Bible didn't believe that it was as terrible as it looked the first time, and then went back and wrote it again and took notes, and still came to the conclusion that, oh man, some of that stuff is just not okay. Like, I don't know. I think that I don't have any more credibility than the people here who are making stuff up about the Bible, or trying to logic their way into convincing themselves that slavery is okay. I don't think I have any more credibility than that, but I think it's necessary that there's pushback against that. I think that if a person is so ingrained that they're never going to change their mind, that's fine. I mean, whatever. Like, I wish that wasn't the case, but so be it. But for anyone who's watching who has a family who's pressuring them to become religious, or someone who is gay or trans and questioning whether or not they should detransition or convert or something like that, I want them to know that there's someone out there who supports their life, who supports their right to life, liberty, and happiness, and who is well equipped and able enough to say that religion is oftentimes the culprit for the hate surrounding those things. That's all. I know that was very drawn out. Anyway, smoke them if you got them. Cheers. Give me one moment, and I'll be right back here. Oh my god, that was a really big bowl. By made up, I meant the whole claim that not only the universe has a sentient creator, but this creator communicated with humanity through prophets, and that we all meet him after we die. I mean, without the Bible, how do you come to the realization of that? Without the Bible, how do you start believing that in the first place? If the Bible didn't exist, if no religious text ever existed, why would you believe that anyone creates something that then they speak through prophets, and that he's there and you meet him after you die? Without someone claiming that from some sort of organized, I don't know, let's call it a religion. I mean, wouldn't that be spurious? Wouldn't that be a reach? Again, it's like walking through the desert and seeing a pebble blow by and thinking, oh shit, God must have been moving that. Like, correlation is not causation. So just because if you see something happening in nature, or if someone tells you something, like, oh hey, God did that, doesn't make it true. Even 1 million people saying that doesn't make it true. Even I don't know, what is it? What's the population of Christians right now? It's something like several billion. CS person, brainwashed Christian Jello head. You think I'm Christian? I would look at this entire stream and be like, that dude's an atheist. I don't know. I don't know how you would interpret that. Unless you're calling random commenter brainwashed Christian Jellohead, which I don't think that he said anything at this point to elicit such a strong response. Unless he's been on some racist shit or something. I don't know. Anyway, this guy, Jesus is Lord, was the user who wanted me to look this guy up. And the first thing I saw was a fucking monstrous racist music video. And he's like, no, it's against a different religion. I'm like, what the fuck does that matter? Jesus fucking Christ. So, because it's like, it's against your enemy religion, I guess, you get to be racist? No, fuck. God damn, dude.
So that's the transcendental argument in short.
It was
so
this
when
guy.
You say things like, and I'll let you have the floor in a moment. When you say things like that it's morally superior, perhaps, to have sort of Christianish values, but that logic and reason is kind of the dumb.
Yeah, I mean, I get, that people... See, this is why I understand sort of the process, or why I think that I comprehend a lot of the process that goes into why people become Christian in the first place. It's because I know why people become atheist, or because I know what trauma looks like, and I know that trauma a lot of the times revolves around religion, and it doesn't matter whether God is real in this scenario or not. Like, what matters is the morality of the people who practice these religions. And a lot of people in the LGBTQ community, systematically for hundreds of years have been repressed and demonized by people of various religions. And that's only one group of people. Black people, during the 50s and 60s, the same thing, like segregation was backed by churches. Like, it's easy for people to have trauma surrounding religion. And so it's understandable to me when people have a strong reaction to seeing people who are religious or to hearing them speak about religion. And that stems from my understanding of how trauma can drive people to become religious in the first place. So what I'm saying is I think that I hope that I have an understanding that spans both the Christian point of view and the secular, in that I know that trauma informs a lot of our decision making, and it informs a lot of the big decisions that we make in life. Imagine this. Imagine that you are driving down the freeway and you haven't slept very well and you're really tired, and so you start drifting, and you hit the median and the car goes over, and you collide with another car and you end up killing the people in the car, and you wake up in the hospital. Anyway, at some point you're held accountable for that. It's like involuntary manslaughter, right? Or vehicular manslaughter, something like that. But so let's say that you get charged with that and you go to jail, and the your bunkmate or whoever, someone tells you like, oh man, like that's rough, you should talk to the chaplain or something, or even the chaplain comes up to you. You're at one of the most vulnerable positions in your entire life, and you're desperate and you're looking for a way out. A bad actor, or a person who hasn't understood much about themselves by now, will be like, I can probably use this to get out of jail, or at least to get out of hell. And then a person who is desperate and longing for belonging would be like, oh shit, this guy actually like knows someone, God, who can like listen to my problems and actually help fix me and make me like whole again. Both of which are perfectly valid from that person's point of view. But do you see how it's almost predatory? It's almost like you take a person at their most vulnerable point in life, when they are the most down and in the dumps and just destitute, and you tell them, I've got someone that if you pledge yourself to him can absolve you of all of this. And I can tell you exactly why, and then you get into the Bible. But like, doesn't that, I mean, that seems like you're taking trauma and you're trying to attach it to something that is unverifiable and that a lot of people use as a tool for evil. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, religion is a dagger. Religion is a fucking sword. And it can be used in defense of people, but it can also be used to massacre people. And people all around the world use it in both ways. And like, you know, I think that that's true for any fundamentalism, for any fundamental belief. Like, let's say that you're a militant vegan and you're actually like going and fucking like super gluing your hands to the chicken barns and shit. I get it. And there was a period in my life when I was vegan for a very short time. But like, I get it. I don't necessarily support that type of activism because I think that there are a lot better things that you can do to elicit change. But I mean, more power to you. But fundamentalism is the problem here. It's extremists. It's the people who are on the fringes. So that's why I say, like, I don't necessarily have a problem with all religions or with people who practice religion. It's really this dogmatic adherence to supporting things like slavery, even in trying to justify it at the time as saying things like it was what you had to do back then. That's why I don't like it. Because I would much rather that people who are religious be transparent and consistent and understand that, yeah, it was a period of time. And even if we are to assume, like, let me just take a tangent real quick and just tell you why the standards of time are still bad, or the standards at the time are still bad. Like, you can, as a whole society, agree that murder is okay. Like, we agreed as a whole society that separating black from white people was okay. We agreed as an entire society that slavery was okay for a long period of time. In America, I mean. And, like, we can acknowledge that, and we can look at it at the time and say that it's not cool if we have the insight into political matters to be able to say that. But what's important is looking back on it and saying that was evil. That was bad. But that's not even my point. Everything looks one way at the period of time. And if you are saying that what's happening in that period of time is a product of that time, then you have to believe that it being the norm is okay, which both defeats the idea of morality, especially as coming from God, but it also puts you at odds with just natural morality, which... What the fuck was that? Which could very well be argued is a objective thing. It is a thing that exists in nature. Like, we see ousting in tribes of chimpanzees. We see, exile for like wolf packs and things. You know, I just, it's hard not to spot. Let me go pee. There's about... Actually, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the stream here. I was going to go until 2, but this dipshit needs Jesus. Thank you. But I have to pee, and I didn't want to have to just come back and then spend like 10 minutes saying goodbye. So, Dave, Alyssa, if you want to tune in tomorrow and talk more shit, I'm happy to have you. We have, hopefully, we have Random Commenter and Kian Aris who are going to call in and, try to convince me that their opinion concerning Jesus is correct. So you may want to stick around for that, or tune in, especially if you think I need Jesus. They may convert me. You never know. You never know. Not if I'm reading the Bible, though. If we're reading the Bible, it's going to be tough. But also, just for Kian, I'm gonna try to look that up. Where is it? I'm gonna try to look up the study that you pointed out to me. I'll take a look at it. I start at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which just adjust as per your wants and needs. All right. Have a good one, man. I appreciate you guys. If you haven't subbed already, please do. I really am trying to build a community, even if you don't agree with me. It's still good to, you know, have that contrasting view. And even if you don't agree with that, have fun talking shit to me, you know? It's a win-win situation, you know? You talk shit, I get the engagement. Bada bing, bada boom. You know? I think that's a good enough reason to subscribe all by itself. All right? Have a good one, guys. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And eat plenty of food and drink plenty of water.